everybody, and welcome back to Choices Not Chances. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. And we're going to record with Jon Williams tonight. He's the CEO of a company called War Inc. He's also had a host of other billets and stuff since he's been out. But War Inc. has a host of different products that I'm excited about, that you'd be excited about, that everybody should be excited about. And I'm going to let him breathe on that a little bit before we start, just so you know what's coming. Specifically, I'd like him to talk about your phones, the project Hugin.
Hugin, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Munin or Hugin, which one it was. So,
Oh,
I want you to talk about that a little bit. Again, thanks for coming to the show. Thanks for coming on, and I want to get your life, but I also want to touch on those phones and some of your technology coming out. You know, and that is out, so that people can hear it from the front side and then know where you came from.
yeah, absolutely. So, Project Hugin, and you mentioned Munin as well. So, those are both part of our cyber division. And so, Project Hugin specifically is focused around encrypted communications. And so, we have a phone that we sell commercially, but also to different departments and agencies that allows them to basically, communicate at the edge without being tracked, broken into, or having any of that data stolen. So that's been out, like I said, with different departments and agencies and within the DOW a little bit. But the cool thing again is that it's a commercial product, so anyone can buy the phone. It's available to the market for anyone, and it works. Basically, how it works is, you buy the phone, and then that phone will work across 165 different countries instantly. You don't have to call us as a provider or anything like that. You just roll wherever you want to roll, and then that phone will allow you to talk and text at an encrypted level that can't be tracked, traced, or broken into at the moment. And so it's been pen tested by the U.S. DOW, the State Department, Israel, and inadvertently China.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a good program, and yeah, I mean it's a like I said, it's available to it's one of the few commercial products that we have. So
Cool. Cool. Yeah. When we talked about that offline, I was like, yep, we got to get this out right out the front when we record. So appreciate that. And yeah, other products too that aren't commercial products, but working with the military in different aspects of UAS and counter UAS, and that kind of brought us together and started a conversation between you and I, which kind of led to this. Which is going to lead to us working maybe professionally together on through my other company. So, well, let's that's up front. That's where we're at right now. Let's figure out how we got there and kind of lay the story down. Tell me about the first 12 years of life. Where'd you come from? Who'd you come from? How was what was the cycle at home? What was the routine at home? What it looked like?
yeah, so I was actually from California originally, and then was adopted actually, and then ended up in Washington State, just north of there. Moved up there when I was younger, and then did a good portion of my schooling up there before I joined the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I played baseball. Growing up, that was like my main thing as a kid. And I thought I was, my whole goal was to go pro in baseball, and played through high school, and um, yeah, I ended up playing around the country, and did pretty okay for myself inside the sport, and um, yeah, but still ended up in the Marine Corps at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
Oh well, what pulled you to the Marine Corps?
um, well, I was actually not planning on joining the Marine Corps. It was something that was always in the back part of my head, but my main focus was, how do I get inside of the MLB? Like I wanted to
Yeah.
play professional baseball. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, actually, my senior year, I was focused on obviously going to college to play baseball, and my senior year, basically, I wasn't able to graduate on time. So some of the curriculum had changed. I was short like point 0.5 career ed credit or something like that. So
Oh man.
during where I went to high school, it's broken into 2 semesters. So the first semester and second semester. So the first semester I went back for like these couple classes I had to take to make up that missing credit, and then the second half of the second semester, that second half of school, I had nothing, and so
Mm-hmm.
I told the school, I was like, hey, I'm doing a private PE credit, and so I signed off as doing PE credit, and I took the credits that I had from high school, and I took them to the local community college, and I used them to get my adult diploma, because at the time you couldn't join the Marine Corps with a GED.
Mm-hmm.
I think you still
Mm-hmm.
can't, um, but they would accept an adult diploma because it was technically a diploma. So I got my diploma, went to boot camp during high school, technically. And I graduated from boot camp. And that night I flew home and I actually walked to my high school graduation the next day with
Hell
my
yeah.
uniform.
Yeah, yeah. That was a good after party, I'm sure. Well, that's cool. I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that before. Um, and so what, were you 17 when you graduated from boot camp or were you 18?
No, I was 19.
Oh, you were 19. Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So I was 18 going into my senior year, and then I had to stay
That's right.
for the next year. So I ended up turning 19 in the first part of the year, and then went to boot camp during the second part. And I was already 19, and so yeah,
And then just straight to it after you graduated?
yeah, straight to it, man. Like I said, I flew home that night, so I still had like 20 days or 19 days of leave after boot before SOI started,
Mm-hmm.
and I went from there, went straight to SOI, and then yeah,
You did SOI on the East Coast?
West Coast.
Oh,
Yeah.
boot camp and SOI both West Coast? Okay.
Yep. They try to keep most guys from like west of the Mississippi
Oh, yeah, you
on the
said
West
Cali,
Coast.
of course. You're going to be right there. Cali and Washington
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And was there any culture shock or any notable stories from boot camp or SOI?
yeah, I mean I mean, everyone's got their infamous, the boot camp stories and things that they were crazy for them. And I think for me getting in, because I got in just after you did, so I came in '06.
Yeah.
And all the drill instructor, a lot, at least I won't say all, but like a lot of the drill instructors, right, were, if they were grunts or if they were like part of the logistics groups, like they're part of the invasion. Those are the invasion guys. And
Mm-hmm.
so I remember my drill, everyone remembers their drill instructors, but the kill hat at the time, he was particularly like unhinged, like, and I like he was an '03. And I don't know if you remember, but like when the invasion first started, when the Iraq War kicked off, and the Marines were on the ground, like full head steam into the invasion, it was like, I don't know if you remember, it was like all over the news,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It broke when the first Marine died. Well, that was his best friend. So
Oh,
it was
okay.
his like best friend in the world, like was the first guy to die in the invasion. It was just like, yeah. So he was particularly unhinged, and
No,
he was
yeah.
he was dead set on not letting any boot that he didn't think belonged in his Marine Corps in his Marine Corps. So like he would
Gatekeeping.
just straight break dudes off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I can't say I don't agree with it.
yeah, no, I know, absolutely. I think that
Yeah.
us getting away from that was a problem. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Well, that's wild. So baseball was baseball a year-round deal for you growing up?
yeah, it was a year-round deal for me.
Okay.
Played, traveled the whole country, did the Junior Olympics. Played really heavily, and actually, I did cry one time in boot camp. And that was one of the funnier stories I think for the other recruits.
Ah,
Was I was we got the first time we got mail, and this is like before really cell phones were a big thing, and so we got mail,
yep.
and I got this letter the first time I got mail from my old coach who'd become a pro scout, and like we had moved, and back then like if you moved you got a new landline, and most of the time you got a new number.
Yep.
So he was trying to get a hold of us, but couldn't get a hold of us, and so I'm reading this letter. And I start like tearing up a bit, Matt Killhat's walking by. He's like, "Why are you crying, maggot?" And I'm like, no reason. So he like grabbed my letter from me and he's like reading it. And he's like, "Oh man,"
You have a
he's
reason to
like,
cry.
"You fucked up. Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, you fucked up." And I'm like, I gotta know, sir. He's like, were you some sort of shithot baseball player? I was like, I was kind of okay, sir. He's like, well, looks like you're probably better than okay.
Yeah.
And so like in the letter it was stating that I had pro tryouts to the Mariners, the Dodgers, the Tigers, like the Cincinnati Reds. There was like 10 different teams that were like open to like having me come try out potentially.
Oh man.
And so yeah, like watching my whole like world like flash before my eyes,
Yeah.
And he's like looking around the squad bay and he's like, "Oh, you other maggots." He's like, "He's the only maggot allowed to cry today." And da, 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 da. And then he like tears up my letter and like like blows it in my face and he's like, "Welcome to the Marine Corps, bitch," and just walks away.
Lace up. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Ah, it sucks. That
Yeah.
sucks. I had a pitching coach that was if you could believe it, I got there. I was pitching for American Legion and a team that was way older than me, and I was okay as well. And this guy's the pitching
Yeah, the American
coach.
Legion teams are good, man.
Yeah, this guy's the pitching coach for it, and I go up there, and there's like maybe 3 or 4 of us in the little bullpen, and we're throwing, and everybody's getting it in. And this guy has one leg, so now you're thinking, oh, what the fuck is a guy with one leg doing being a pitching coach? Because that was my reaction to it when I first met him, and he tells because everybody asks that, You know, he tells the same story to everybody, and the story is that he went and did tryouts for the Minnesota Twins, and I might fuck the team up. It's one or the other. Anyway, let's. I think it's the Twins that he went to try out for. Tried out for him. A couple days later, you know, this is in the got to be in the '60s. This is right around the time that Vietnam draft was about to go out, and they made him an offer letter. And because he had tried out at a few different teams, he didn't just want to accept the first thing, and he wanted to see, you know, what was out there, right? And so they made an offer on Monday that he could have accepted and been a professional baseball player and pitching for the Minnesota Twins. Tuesday morning, he gets a draft notice.
You got drafted.
He goes to Vietnam and he loses his leg. Yep. Comes back and now he's still a pitching coach and he's really good and like he knows how to do it. But can you imagine? And so his whole moral of his whole story is you ever get an opportunity, you say yes right now. You don't ever wait till tomorrow. That was his whole shtick as far as professional baseball went. But no, that's too cool, man. And that's a cool environment to be in. The further up you get in that, and you went way further past where I was, but you start to get with people that are very, very talented, and that just rubs on each other, you know, and steel sharpens steel style. So very cool. All right, so boot camp SOI, where do you end up in the first unit?
Yeah, so I get through. Well, getting out of ITB was maybe another story. So
let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to get released. You know, the last week of ITB, so they come down, and obviously the security forces always pull. You know, they pull O3s to go do security forces for a couple of years, and then sometimes they get sent back to the fleet. Well, you know, my name J Williams is extremely common, so there are, you know, 4 other guys in ITB with those same initials, like J Williams, you know. And so and maybe the right one left, maybe the right one didn't, I have no idea, but all I know is that when they came up to the squad bay to pull people, they're going down the list of names and they say J Williams, and all of us look at each other, and I'm like, I'm not getting up.
That's
like,
not me.
That ain't me. That ain't happening. And so this other guy stood up and he went, but like they never confirmed like which one. They never, you know what I mean? And again, maybe it was the right one, maybe they didn't. I don't know if they had an actual manifest or they just went J Williams and thought they were getting the right one. I have no idea, but it was like that moment I was like, oh man, I was like, I got to go to the fleet. Like I signed up for that. I didn't go to security forces. I didn't even know that was a possibility until right now. So like everyone's like,
my guess is that kid had contracted security forces and he knew it. Maybe not, but
well, all of us looked around at each other initially. So
he maybe not know. Okay.
Like we all, yeah, every one of us were like kind of like similar in the same, like we all were almost like kind of grouped together, like a pretty small like proximity to each other. And so all of us, and we all like joked around because we all knew who each other were. So we were just like, you know,
who was it?
Who was it? Like,
that's funny.
So finally, like, and cool because the staff sergeant that was standing at the front of the squad bay was like, Jay Williams, like, get up here. And so like finally, like one of us just went, you know.
Yeah. That's funny, dude. He probably didn't know he had 4 or 5 of you, or maybe he did. So, who knows?
Yeah. So that I get through that, and then they announced that basically everyone else is going to 3-5. There was like 1 or 2 kids that went to Hawaii, but like the entire rest of the class was all going to 3-5. Oh, yeah. So a huge boot drop went to 3-5, and that's where I ended up at the beginning. So.
Oh yeah, and what was it like arriving there, meeting your seniors for the first time and such?
I mean, and the unit wasn't back from Iraq yet, so for the first couple months, you know, we were just kind of like, you know, biding time for them to get back. Yeah. And then the moment they got back, it was just utter chaos, you know. That first,
you guys,
and I don't think anyone
sense of security.
yeah, exactly.
Might be worse.
Like, oh yeah, I think this isn't so bad. And all of a sudden, your senior lance corporals get there, and your world is rocked, you know.
Oh yeah.
I remember. Like, and no, I don't think anybody forgets like their first field day in the fleet from that era.
Nope.
You know, like like that week that they got back, you know, like every Thursday night was field day for a Friday morning inspection, and that very first field day, our company gunny got charged with like 167 counts of hazing because they like the senior lance corporals, the team leaders, the squad leaders, like everyone got messed with that night by the gunny. But they I mean just the lower end leadership had like the boots out there like just all night. They were all drunk as shit. And like, and at the time we were like, my team or squad was like out in one of the older, like condemned, like barracks that
Mm-hmm.
had been there since like the 70s.
Hell
And so they
yeah.
would make, because I was the only boot with a car, they would make me drive down to their barracks, pick them up, and then drive them back over to our barracks so they could inspect us. And they would like, they would just mess with us the whole time. And then they'd be like, okay, Williams, like, we want to go back. So they would like make me drive them back so they could get more alcohol,
You might have
get
had
more
it
drunk.
easier, huh?
They'd be like, yeah, then drive, drive back up there, help your brothers clean more shit, and then come back and get me at like 30 minutes. So then I would like drive back down there. They'd come back and they'd walk in the room, and be like, they'd like rub their fingers together and be like, this area is too clean. We'll be back. Like, back. You know.
Oh, I remember. I remember them
Yeah.
well. Fun
Yeah,
times.
yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, like that, at the same breath, like that leadership that was there, like a lot of those guys were invasion guys. A lot of those guys had just like a crazy amount of experience and knowledge that they could pass down, and I think that was crucial for for all of us. And it was what was expected. You know what I mean? To get messed with a little bit, but after that, it was like hit the go button, and so like it was kind of balls to the wall. And then I remember, that was all leading up to like our first deployment, going back to Fallujah.
Did you guys
And
know,
all my
yeah, did you
seniors,
guys know where you were going, or did your seniors know where you were going back to?
before the workup, like right before the workup started, yeah. And so
Yeah.
so a lot of those guys were getting out, but they were still there for like a good portion of the start of the workup.
Sure.
And so, but they weren't deploying with us. So like those senior invasion guys, like yeah, they were, as soon as they found out we were going to Fallujah, like that's when like training really ramped up.
Yeah.
And they just yeah, it was tough training, it was good training. But yeah, like, and you could tell they cared. You know what I mean? Like they were like legitimately worried for you.
I find, and we can just breathe on this a little bit. I think I talked about it offline a little bit the last time, but I've found, and I'm still in a space where I train Marines, and I was talking to some Marines just yesterday, talking about training, and until somebody, it's almost like until you lost somebody under combat conditions in combat on the same field as you, maybe while you're making decisions, maybe while you're not, but while you're there and partaking, until that's happened, it's like that urgency for training just isn't all the way in the overdrive as somebody when it has happened to you, when you've seen that, when you come back, training is everything. You bought full into that. Somebody can tell you that till they're blue in the face, but until somebody goes down, when you come back, training means more. And by means more doesn't mean I'm going to go fuck with people. It means, no, I really, really need you guys to know what's going on because I've seen the other side of this. And
Yeah.
I wish we could keep the Marine Corps there always, but we can't always have a war, and we can't always be losing people in order for that sentiment or that emotion or sensation to be in our guys for instructors, So
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, like you can't always have it, but your hope is that combat leadership or some of that force will stay around long enough, to pass down
to pass
things as
in.
far as they can and keep that mentality as long as they can until the next one does kick off, because it's always an eventuality, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
but I mean, for me at least, it was met like day one. Like the very first, patrol with my squad leader, my squad in the backyard, like there was really nowhere to even like take cover, like we were doing, we were just training and stuff. And so we were, practicing our contact drills and stuff. And I remember we go into the backyard and like the very first like contact right that's called, they're like, I go to like try to find something to get behind, like, and so like all there was, he says take cover, right? But all there is like a bush. And so I'm like, at least I could find concealment. So I go behind the bush, and like within seconds, I just remember like hearing my name's like, what the fuck, Williams? And I turn around and my team leader is like drop kicking me in the chest. And I get flown backwards, and like my squad leader, my team leader, and the other team leaders are all standing around me, just shaking me up and down off the ground, like just like rattling me. They're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? They're like, I said find cover. Does this look like cover to you? It's fucking concealment, bitch. Like, what the fuck? Like, don't you ever do that again. Your blood is not gonna be on my hands. I'm like,
Hey, okay.
But you know what? I never went behind a bush again.
I bet you
for
found
anything.
a wall real quick, didn't you? Yeah.
I mean, like, again, there was nothing out there. So I thought I thought I was making like a good decision. You know what I mean? They're like just lay down.
Yeah,
Like, if you don't have any cover, just Get prone.
Yeah, prone out.
Duck behind a rock.
Micro terrain. Hell yeah.
But that level of intensity, we just got to find a way to keep, you know?
Yeah. Now, your seniors were in Fallujah and then going back, or you guys were going back, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So they had the knots on what was going on right then, right now, training you guys. That's good. Now, they make you guys memorize Fallujah or go over Fallujah or where you were going to be. Did any of that happen with your leadership coming up in that workup?
Yeah, I mean, there was a fair amount of like knowledge that they could use, and actually, the like more senior sergeant that was there when we first checked in was actually one of the sergeants that actually helped write the first like CQB doctrine for the Marine Corps, because we didn't have any prior to that.
Yeah.
And so our, if anything, like our platoon was like one of the best ones in the battalion when it came to CQB, because that's all we did, like all day, every day, till the sun went down. You know, like didn't matter what time it was. Like we just cleared rooms and cleared rooms and cleared rooms and cleared the whole barracks, and you know, it was just nonstop. And so
now you guys, Thunder and Third, that was Phantom Fury was your seniors then, right? Or no? No, they would have been five, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them were Phantom Fury guys.
Yeah.
And some of them have been around since the actual like 2001, 2002.
Yeah. The Phantom Fury guys did that house to house thing. They probably did heavily emphasize mount. Yeah. Good.
And then at the time, the Marine Corps still had the Urban Assault Leaders course, and so me and a couple other guys that were, as they called us, super boots, got chosen to go through that course, and so we went through the Urban Assault Leader Mount Instructor course, and then we're able to come back and like further teach, more CQB, more updated mount stuff to the whole company.
Yeah, it's good.
And at the time, like there was a huge focus on that stuff. Like we were like the Marine Corps was still really heavy into going to all these different like urban environment courses. There was some shoot house stuff that we did with LA SWAT.
Yep.
And a couple other things. It was all really good training. We did this, this huge workup, this huge ramp up for going into Fallujah, and then, we hit the ground running there, and we're super aggressive, and we're, just right out the gate, and it was like the deployment really wasn't that as crazy as everyone thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? And not to say that it couldn't have been.
That's great news.
Yeah. I think that, but as a grunt, you're like, well, I trained and trained and trained to like kill, and like there wasn't really any of that there wasn't a whole lot of kinetic stuff going on, And then when we left, the unit that replaced us, who had worked out with us prior, like they came right back to the same AO, and they had like firefights every day for the first few months and lost like 12 guys, and were like in the same exact AO that we'd just left, where like nothing really had happened. I mean, like larger things happened during the deployment, don't get me wrong, but like the kinetic side really wasn't what everyone thought it was going to be. Like there was big, political things that happened. There was big, shift changes in the way that like Fallujah was going to be run in the future based on things that happened in our deployment. And there was, you might have remembered seeing this, but do you remember G4 TV?
I remember
when G4 TV started. It was like the only cable station that covered like gaming.
Okay.
And so this was right around, and YouTube was just starting to blow up and stuff around that time.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember the video Ghost Ride the MRAP. But that was us. Okay. That was our unit. And so like I remember like we're sitting in we just finally moved out of the city a bit, across Blackwater Bridge, and to the west, and like this video goes up on YouTube, and it's picked up by G4 TV, and then all of a sudden it's on MSNBC and Fox and CNN. Yes. And our company commander comes in, and he's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Who was that?" Like, because everyone's watching on YouTube, and we're like, "No, delete, Alt F12, like shut down the computer." And so man, the guys from weapons got pretty messed up over that.
Yeah.
But because when we started the deployment, there weren't MRAPs, right? We still had like shitty Humvees, and then finally MRAPs made it to that AO.
Yeah.
And then so did that song, and so
yeah.
So we left Iraq and came back, and everyone was kind of like, well, that wasn't exactly what we thought it was going to be, and then we went to the MU. So
you feel like everybody was let down? Was there emotions of like being let down that there wasn't kinetic activity?
I would say like obviously, you know, like that's every it's like
I
and
mean,
it's gonna sound
that's what I'm
crazy.
trying to pull out of
Like
you
you
because
get it,
some
yeah,
people
you
don't
get it, and I get it, but
understand.
like a lot of people maybe listening maybe don't understand it. But it's like as a grunt, like you train and train and train to do this one thing to like be involved in a kinetic fight. And when you're with as hard as training as we do, all day, you know, every day, 7 days a week, sometimes, you know, we're out in these huge exercises to train up for something this massive piece, and you go out there and like it's not that. You know, you feel like you haven't done your job. You don't
Yep.
feel like you've completed the mission, even though you did. And even though you actually may have like completely successfully completed the
Yeah, you
mission
could have crushed it.
without a whole lot of stuff, like you just don't feel like you did. And
Hmm.
so like a lot of the guys were kind of let down. And so, you know, when we went to the Mew, you know, obviously we, you know, the likelihood of finding that on a 30 worst Mew in the Pacific is far less likely than being on a Mew on the other side of the world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when we found out we were going on the 31st Mew out in Japan, we got stationed in Japan and went to Thailand, back to Japan, Philippines, back to Japan, then Australia back to Japan, and we never got you know, we never got the call to go do anything else during that one out, you know, outside of just the training the training the foreign special forces part, which was still fun and cool. And one of the coolest things I think I got to do, like just being part of a Raider company and
Well,
doing the
cool.
whole coxswain and Raider package thing was cool. But we all knew that we weren't going to get that. We likely were going to get that call. And so a lot of guys that were part of that Fallujah deployment, that were my, you know, my peers and stuff, a lot of them got out.
Yeah.
Like not for us. So.
Yeah. So you come back from the 31st Mew, then what?
So we're out on
You
the
staying in
31st Mew.
3-5? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm obviously with 3-5. We're out of the 31st Mew. You know, we do the Mew package stuff. I get promoted to corporal. Um, you know, I was already kind of looked at as like a team leader at that point.
Okay.
Um, and so we're coming out from that. And actually, at the time, I was actually looking at joining the Air Force. And so I was looking at going to do the PJ program. I thought it was really cool, and I thought it
Oh,
would be
yeah.
interesting. And I knew that the Air Force took a little bit better care of their people. Um, and so
Facts.
I'm sitting there talking with the Air Force recruiter, and basically, you know, long story short, my sergeant major walks by, and he's like, "Williams, what the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a PJ sergeant major," and he's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "We need combat leadership to come with us." I was like, What's happening?" He's like, "We're going to Afghan next." I was like, "Well, fuck." And then the Air Force recruiter was like, "Yeah, and you got to take a year off, just so you know." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" They're like, "Yeah, if you want to be a PJ, you got to take a year off, and then you can come back to do the PJ thing, and we'll put
All
you
right.
through M2 school while you're doing that year off." I was like, "Again, why do I have to take a year off?" He's like, "Well, you're crazy." I was like, "You're a Marine grunt. Like, you do not belong mentally in the chair force." He's
It
like, "We're
blows my
basically
mind that
like
he said that
civilians
to
with a
you.
uniform. Like, you know,
It's
you got to
wild.
decompress. You got to decompress." I'm like, "Well, EMTs make like $12 an hour where I'm from, so I can't afford that."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was like, yeah, yep, I guess I'm reenlisting in the Marine Corps. So I reenlisted out there. They had just cut all the bonuses
Yeah.
for that FY. So like, you know, basically, in some ways I kind of lucked out in that sense because you know they were like, well, you know, we cut all the bonuses pretty hard. So is there anything else that you want? Because like, you know, they wanted to keep me around, I think, and I was a high PFTer. I'd already been through all these courses. You know, I'd
Sure.
been through a ton of different training. They put a lot of money into me thus far, so keeping me around was a good idea for them. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I want a choice of school, so I want to go to jump school, and I want to, um, I want to have a single BAH, which is like unheard of, you know.
Yeah.
And they actually approved it. So I was actually one of the I think I might have been the only like corporal on all of Camp Pendleton to have single BAH at the time. That wasn't
Oh,
like a
yeah.
special circumstance or anything.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they approved it. So yeah, so I reenlisted. We got back, and then we started working up for Afghanistan, and then um, yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, did your workup for Afghanistan differ than the MEU or than the Iraq workup in terms
Yeah, it
of like
yeah
activities?
yeah
Obviously, your
it
billet changed, but
yeah, it had differed. It had differed quite a bit. So I mean, obviously, I'd also gone through, you know, squad leaders course, and I was like, you know, amped to be a squad leader for my next deployment,
hmm
and um, then I actually decided that I was going to go try to link up with some buddies of mine that were in the stay platoon. So I wanted to go to the sniper in doc, the stay
okay,
platoon in doc, and basically as soon as I did that, then the sergeant major got wind of it and was like, "Oh no, we're pulling you." And I was like, "What? I can't go to the stand dog?" Like, no, and you can't go to jump school either because you're gonna be too busy. And I was like, "Fuck."
Ah,
Yeah.
well, that
So
sucks.
yeah, so I did all the pre-screening for the jump school too. I went and did like the army. I went over to the army side and like did their army PFT and like, did all the stuff. Like I like submitted my whole package and I was like basically getting ready to go to jump school like that in a couple months. And they're like, "Nope, you got to go through PSD stuff." So they pulled me to the PSD
Oh,
side, and then which was kind of cool because before we left for the deployment after getting pulled to PSD, they just wanted some senior leadership there to help obviously help run that side of the house and obviously
sure.
keep the battalion commander and sergeant major safe. So um, they were like, "Oh, who wants to go to the canine school?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yeah!" Like there was a dog named Mocha that was on my Fallujah deployment that had definitely kind of changed the face of Fallujah, and she did good work out there and she saved people's lives. So I was like, "Yeah, I want to go. I know what having a dog around is like." And so I get to the dog school, and they still have Mocha. Like I'm sharing these stories about because like they asked when we got to the school, does anyone have experience around dogs? And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do." There's a dog named Mocha, and they're like, "Oh well, that's our dog. She's still around." And so Mocha that was out on the Fallujah deployment was now my dog.
Fuck
So I
yeah.
got to deploy. Yeah, so I got to deploy with a bomb dog, and that was super cool.
What's There's definitely some different responsibilities that come with the dog and training the dog constantly being responsible for that dog. And can you talk about that a little bit? Just the difference in having that both goods and like pros and cons. You have a companion, you have a little sense of security, I'm sure, with her. Um,
Yeah.
Breathe on that a little bit.
Um, I would be hard pressed to say that there's cons. There's some like immediate felt differences, like that where you just have more to take into consideration. You have more to plan for like individually, and it was new for me because it was the first time that I went from, being a central part of a squad or a team or a platoon or like in the leadership side of the house especially, and went from you know, still having some leadership role, like being a VC commander in the PSD side,
Yeah.
and being one of the more senior guys in the dog team side for the battalion. But but I was still technically now an attachment,
Yeah.
and so when you get looked at as an attachment and you're treated like an attachment for certain things, your life is just very different. And so that was new to me. And then like they're also that dog's first line of care. So you learn a lot about how to take care of the dog. Obviously, you're having to feed the dog, train the dog, all those things. But you're also having to, carry around all the things that you need for that dog
Yeah.
on deployment and on mission. And so, and if your mission includes living out of your pack for the next 2 weeks while you're doing some large scale piece, half my weight in my bag is dog food and IV bags for the dog and extra water, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was a really different way to way to look at stuff. Like like everyone else had like extra sleeping stuff so they'd be more comfortable and this and that. And like, but the majority of my weight is just dog food in case we don't get resupplied,
Yeah.
or or extra water or IV bags. That was another cool thing learning about the dog side was just like doing sub Q stuff with the dog. So like you can take the tuft of the hair on the back of the neck of the dog, pull it up. And when you pull it up between the shoulder blades, it'll create that like a triangle.
Uh huh.
You can take a standard IV line with a needle, stick it in there, and then just pump that IV bag in there, and it'll create like a small camelback for the dog. And the way that the body of the dog works is it will just naturally absorb that saline bag over time, so you don't have to worry about them getting dehydrated, or
Huh.
because you can't be worried about when you're in the middle of a firefight, like, oh, my dog's tongue is swelling up because they're getting hot. You don't have time to worry about that. So
Yeah.
it's just you're literally sub-queuing them almost every day. So like almost every day we were putting a camelback behind her neck.
And you squeeze it in, so it's in their inner already. Okay.
Yep.
It seemed to
Yeah,
cause
so it
discomfort in
creates like
any
a, like
way.
a bubble behind their neck.
Okay. It didn't
So
seem to cause discomfort to the dog at all.
they're used to it. I mean, they start that like that that training with them so that they become more familiar with it like when they're puppies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as soon as they
Wow.
can start training those dogs, they do that like every now and then just so they're not they become accustomed to it.
You're the first person that's ever said that. I've never heard that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, so it was super cool. And then
And then the
we
dog
get out
stays
to.
with you from the time you get done with that school until you come back from deployment. Is that how that works, or if she expires
Yep.
there? Okay.
Yep. So and then that dog, depending on the life cycle of that dog, um, or the training cycle of that dog, then the last handler that has that dog is the person that gets first dibs on
So
adopting them
retired.
if they're retired. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Now is
so
that you?
did you ever see yeah, did you ever see the movie Max
Hmm.
about
Mm-mm.
the bomb dog?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. So there's this movie called Max, and it's about this dog that gets like retired to the family, and you know, in the movie when you're watching it, the whole front part of the movie, the whole premise is literally based off of my youngest Marine's life.
Yours?
And so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the real Marine in from the actual story is his name's Colton Rusk, and so Rusk is he's our youngest handler, and so he ends up getting um, basically caught in an ambush. He gets lit up, and his dog Eli basically tries to cover over him after the firefight and like or during the firefight tries to protect him. And the Marines that are trying to get the dog, back in the vehicle, like he's trying to protect Eli or Colton from those guys because he's like he doesn't know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a big emotional piece. And then like once they get Eli back to the states, they actually retire Eli to the family. But it's this big pivotal deal because this is the first dog to retire early from its service since like the Korean War.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that's what spurred the idea to make a movie around it. And technically, there's another agency that owns the rights to tell the full story because everything post the dog getting given to the family in the movie is all something that basically was like Hollywood made up. It's like a
Yeah.
different than what actually happened. But the actual story is, that they end up setting a couple foundations around it. Eli is then bred to produce PTSD dogs and stuff, and it's this really cool program. And he ended up living to I think 22 years old.
Oh, wow. What
Yeah,
kind of
he only
dog was
passed
he?
away just he was a lab.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm gonna look into that, dude. I'm gonna try to find some pictures, throw some pictures up. Um,
yeah. If
no.
you type in Colton Rusk and Eli in Google, you'll find it immediately.
Okay.
So there's a foundation, a fund around it for service members that want to become veterinarians.
Okay.
There's they'll cover, and then there's another one. I forgive me, I can't remember the other one at the moment, but
Okay.
um,
Yeah, we'll talk offline about it. I want to get that in
yeah,
there. That's
yeah,
really cool. So, would you say the only cons would be that getting back to like pros and
yeah.
cons for the
Sorry.
dog? Would you say that the only cons would really be that the like you're gonna have to carry extra stuff for that dog? That's a given.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, and even that, it's just that's just an operational thing that you're taking on with, and I think that con is easily outweighed by the pros. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like,
Sure.
yeah, the amount of times that dog saved my life and the guys around me's lives, like
Yeah,
it's,
we'll talk a little bit. Well, can you breathe a little bit on when Mocha was in Fallujah, how she kind of saved, or how she
yeah. So
wasn't
yeah,
it
there was
it
this
was
one
the
really big
deployment
moment.
prior, right?
Yeah, well, two deployments. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you had the Fallujah, the Mew, and then we went to Afghanistan. So
Right, right. Yeah,
um,
yeah, two prior.
and she went back out after that. She was like one of the most experienced dogs in the program. I think she ended up with like 8 deployments or something like that. And so the Fallujah one was like her second or third that I was
Okay,
on.
okay.
And so when she was in Fallujah, there was this moment where basically we were really questioning the status of the Iraqi police and how legitimate they were, and kind of what their play with everything else that was going on around us was, because we shared space with them, right? We lived basically in the police precincts with these guys, and so it ended up one night that we were our we were super aggressive, so our our squad basically got told, oh, you're only going out at night because you're way too aggressive with the local populace. So we would only go out at night, and so we were out at the edge of our AO one time near the middle of the city, and we were basically out there there were these huge wild packs of dogs that were rabies ridden, like seriously, it was really bad for like the
I
local
remember.
populace because they would bite kids and
Oh
like
yeah.
they were killing people and stuff. And so we were out there to basically dispatch these rabies ridden dogs. And so at night one night we were out there to do this, and we had started on that mission. So we were and I was tasked with dispatching some of the dogs, and I'm putting rounds down range. Well, it's in on this larger route, and at the end of that route, it was at night. I couldn't see that far, right? Or NVGs only go so far, but we started getting return fire
Oh
like
shit.
from the end of the road, and so everyone's like ducking back into like thick cover and stuff.
Yeah.
We're like, what the hell's going on? These dogs are armed or what? So it ended up that the IPs were on the other end, like implanting IEDs, and so they had to go back right to the patrol to the anyways it was out past curfew, and
Mhm.
so when Mocha came back in the room, at the time where Mocha was, she was going like in the precinct there was this closet, and she would go down there and lay down, every day after patrol. Well, they just thought, oh, well, it was a long patrol. Mocha, wanted to lay down, take some rest, whatever. Well, our dogs, when they find something, they'll lay down or they'll try to show us where things are, or they'll sit down or whatever. And so, um, basically, they went into the closet and realized that she was actually trying to show them something. And so they pulled up this rug, and underneath the rug in that closet was a trap door. And in that trap door went into a basement that no one knew existed. And in there was like all sorts of ordnance and RPGs and 155s and all sorts of stuff. And so that led to the basically the firing of like the entire almost all the Iraqi police
Yep. Yep.
in Fallujah, and then they brought in like a new head of new police captain or police chief and stuff, and then that guy got taken out by a suicide vest. But that was a big turning point that Mocha was kind of like the center point around. Was like she was the one that like verified basically that that needed to happen. So
Hell yeah, that's a cool story. That's a man. I could see where people wouldn't think she was marking. It's like, oh, she's just getting comfortable, or she's just laying down. I guess the only thing I would say for those guys is somebody dropped the ball when clearing that house. You know what I mean, or clearing that IP station. That's for sure. But
yeah,
I was very much in Iraq over in Karabla and Sadah, Ubaidi, those areas. I worked a lot with the Iraqi police in 2007 and 8 over there, and it's not fun because you can see the mooj in them sometimes. Like you can tell some of them that are bad, and they'll have
yeah.
that bloodlust to look after them. Yeah, man, not cool. Not cool. Well, saved by the day by Mocha. Okay, so you're gonna go into this deployment with Mocha, and you're already knowing her, already knowing she's worth her salt. You already got the buy-in for that, so you know how to use her. You go to the course. Now, when you integrate back in, because you're an attachment, is it like if you were to come to me as a squad leader and say, or you're attached to me, I would probably just tell you, hey, do what you can do best to serve the squad, and then I would just let you do what you do. Is that basically how you guys ran your operations, or how did it work?
I mean, luckily the unit because we knew where we were going,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I was part of the PSD, there was one specific line before we left that our sergeant major told the guys in PT in PSD, and that line stuck with me forever, and for like I guess obvious reasons. But he basically said, especially to me and some of the other senior guys, he's like, we have to get ready, like, and we need to take this very seriously because this deployment is going to make your career. If you survive it, it's going to make your career. And he
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely right. I mean, like, it became, a thing of legends at some level. You know what I mean? Like everyone knew. If he said, "Oh, I was with 3-5," like the first question is, "Oh, you were in Sangin?"
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and so it becomes that instant piece for people nowadays. But he already knew it. Like he was like, "Hey, we're not coming home with everybody.
Yeah.
It's not happening." So, um, and so that was like that set the tone, and that was the the upper echelon of the leadership, and so they understood how important anything that could help with the ID problem was going to be,
Yeah.
and so they actually took the dogs pretty seriously, and so during the
Good.
workup and stuff, the dogs got a lot of time with the platoons and stuff, um, but there also weren't enough dogs, and so
Yeah.
when we were set out to go, um, the moment that I landed in Sangin on that Osprey, I was like, rounds were incoming as we were like coming off the Osprey just to get into the patrol base or into the
Oh yeah.
fob, and like it wasn't more than 10 minutes that we were on the ground. We got all of our packs off and things had settled down for a second. Then I was told like, oh, you're going right back to your line platoon that you were with for the last 5 years. So good luck. You're no longer with PSD. So I went
Yeah.
right back to my old platoon.
Now, how's that work? Are you then just attached to them at the squad level, wherever you're needed within the platoon? They're going to float the dog.
Yeah, basically. So I was
Yeah.
attached back to the platoon, and then whatever the platoon needed, um, whichever squad needed me to go out. Obviously, I couldn't go out with all the squads all the time just because that tempo would be too way too crazy.
Yeah.
But the ones that were going into specific areas, I would go out with. Um, where I would help assist. Like when our platoon was first got into Sangin, we were at Fob Jackson, and so because I was also um, still kind of, I won't say part of PSD, but like I just got moved out of PSD, then there was still chances for me to help elsewhere, just because I
Mm-hmm.
did have a lot of experience and leadership skills. So I was actually I didn't stay I didn't stay with the um, platoon. Me and a couple of the dog handlers had our own like little area where we stayed, so that we could work with each other and like bounce ideas back and forth off each other, and
Yeah.
like find new ways to train the dogs that were more, would make us more reliable in that particular AO, right? So we'd be able to work with the EOD guys and get more updated, more recently used HME to train them on, or look at the TTPs on how they're implanting IEDs and stuff. And so that was an interesting. Again, it was just very interesting for me because I'd never been an attachment. I never had kind of been like this outsourced little group, kind
Yeah.
of at the edge of things.
Yeah.
But it was also cool because it allowed me to really help wherever I could. So like, from Fob Jackson, we fought a lot from the rooftop. I worked a lot, I would help the mortarmen out. We would shoot a lot of stuff from the rooftop, and whether it was like supporting the units that were out like adjacent to the fob, it was just it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As you move through that deployment, can you give me a couple of instances where you used Mocha in tenser situations, or the lack of using Mocha resulted in something? I'm wondering.
Yeah, so we the very first so we would we the, just start the deployment, right? And this is and it was a crazy way to start the deployment because it really gave you an idea of what you were in for. And so I remember going on the very first kind of like left seat, right seat AO patrol. I went out with one of the squads. It was a squad plus, and our interpreter that's with us, we're like walking down these really like small alleyways and roads. Like you're not getting military vehicles down there. We use Danger Rangers a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but our interpreter is like, and a lot of times since it's such a small road, you've got like these mud hut, like half walls that are going down that little pathway. And
Yep.
the farmers are out there in the field tending to their opium stuff and, whatever. And, as we're walking down, the interpreter is like, and sometimes they're like not more than like 15 feet away, and they can maybe even hear us talking or hear the interpreter talking, but he's just like pointing at their face and saying like Taliban,
Oh
Taliban,
God.
Taliban. So like the entire, basically the entire population, if they weren't Taliban, they were just Taliban supporters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it turned out that like I think they said it was, don't quote me on this. I don't know if it was the exact number, but I think it was something close to like 11 of the top 13 Taliban leaders all had some form of family like in Sangin somewhere, and that's why
Gotcha.
Sangin was so contested, is because like they could get resupplied like crazy because all the leadership for for the enemy was like had a and the 611 route was like super, is a pivotal point for them to hold to for resupply routes and stuff, and so they wanted to fight over that pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so we're going on this patrol, and everyone's Taliban. So like, well, great. And so when we get there, the British had been fighting over the land for 5 years, had lost 105 guys at the time, and in that AO alone, and like the Taliban had a white flag basically in every building that was like theirs. It was like Minesweeper, like they had these white flags, and they just surrounded all the patrol bases. Like everywhere that we went, like you're basically just like there's white flags everywhere. Doesn't matter what direction you look.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of like to the west where
And
there's
they
like
were
a
just flying flags, letting you know.
yeah, they're just like, yeah, we're here. This is ours. Like,
Mm.
these are people that can support us. This is Taliban support. And then
Interesting.
and in some cases, like that's the building right next to the patrol base. You know what I mean? Like,
How'd you guys handle that?
so
You start
you know,
reducing buildings, or
yeah, I mean, like it was as a grunt, right? It was like this, one of the most exciting things that probably times you could have been a grunt, in the GWA. It was, Iraq had Fallujah, the invasion of Fallujah, and and Afghanistan had Sangin, and
yeah,
then like next after that was like Marja,
yeah, yeah.
and so but Sangin, like I said, like that first patrol we went and did that, and we didn't nothing, we didn't really get messed with on that one. But the very next patrol we went on was a raid to go take down this IED making factory, and they got tipped off that we were coming, but it was our job to go destroy it. And so we get there, and um, we basically, long story short, we hit an IED, and we have to basically one of our youngest guys out who lost 3 of his limbs. We weren't sure he was gonna make it, to be honest. Like he was, he was pretty badly mangled.
3 limbs is
And
rough.
then my other buddy that I deployed with before, who'd been like a long time friend of mine, was right behind him, and he ended up breaking a bunch of bones in his body and stuff. So our job was obviously after that to get those guys out. Well, we got caught basically in like an L-shaped ambush, and that was, I was close enough to that blast for it to rock me a little bit, and then getting those guys out and working on them and then getting them out, which I think we touched on at some other time before
Yeah.
when we talked. But
Was that when
like
they
going through
accidentally
that,
got in front of you?
yeah,
Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, I'd like you to breathe on that one a little bit because there's young guys out here that need to hear that, in my opinion, if you don't mind. I know we went through
yeah.
it
So
before,
basically,
but
the compound, it kind of expanded out to the east from where we made entry, and it was an IED making factory. So basically, they got tipped off we were coming. They inlaid the whole thing with IEDs,
yep.
and so we'd kind of split, went 2 different directions. And the guys on the left that were clearing stuff with grenades, like rooms with grenades, and clearing some stuff to the left, kind of there was this like center larger like room, and we kind of went around it to clear the outside and like kind of cordon off some stuff and try to clear the exterior compound area. And we went to the right, and so there was a minesweeper that went with them, and I went with the dog, and so that we kind of converged on the other side. When we got to the other side, there was this another entry where they kind of like pushed a little bit faster than they should have, because we could have had the dog. I could have sent Mocha a little bit further forward,
Yeah.
and that's when they ended up hitting the IED.
Yeah.
And so they hit the IED. I get rocked a little bit, and everyone's just kind of like the dust has got to settle for a second. And then we look over to where they were, and I see one of our guys who's like buried from like his chest up, and then I see a pair of legs sitting out out next to him. And I think they're his. I think, oh my god, that's this guy. He's in half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get closer and I'm hearing like screaming from like underneath the rubble. And then I realize, oh my god, there's 2 guys here. It's not just one. Like there was so much rubble from the blast that like they got like sucked in, like buried underneath this rubble.
Yeah. Was it a pressure plate IED? Like a victim
Yeah.
actuated? Okay. And was it in the walls or something?
So there was this entry to this. There was an entry to go to another outdoor kind of like courtyard area. That's where like
Uh-huh.
the farming land was,
Uh-huh.
and then there was this like archway over it, and then it was like in the ground,
Okay.
like in the exact like
Right
path
there.
to go through the entry point.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they step on the pressure plate. The first guy takes the majority of the brunt of the blast. The second guy has like tons of broken bones and is buried with them. And so we get them unburied, and we're going to lift the guy who's missing a good portion of his body like out to go start working on to get tourniquets on to like start assessing and stuff. And there was this one point like where it just like really like for pun intended, I guess, not to be funny about it, but it like stuck me, and like just like that was like things became ultra real, and like as far as like
Yeah.
what being in war is like, you know what I mean? And so like we're lifting this our youngest kid out, and we go to set him down. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, like my leg hurts, like my quad. I was like, did I take some shrapnel or something? Like all of a sudden I felt this pain. I wasn't sure if that adrenaline dump just like minimized it for a second. I looked down, and basically his leg bone was so shattered. It was sharp and it was sticking in my leg because I'd lift
Mhm.
up really fast to try to get things going, and I'd like jabbed myself with his leg like into my leg, and I was like, there was just a very surreal moment in my
Yeah,
life where it's
man.
like this is gonna get really real really fast. And so
Yeah.
we get him down, we get him worked on. I look up, and one of his best friends, another one of the younger boots, is just like standing there like shaking.
Yeah.
He looks like he's like flush in the face, like he's about to throw up. And I
Yeah.
literally walk up to him, I just slap him across the face. I was like, "Get it together, man. You know what's gonna happen next. I need you to go hold security somewhere. Like you can't just stand here and watch."
Yeah. We got to think about that later. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about this later. So like, get him,
Yeah.
you know, back into some sort of security point so he can, cover a sector fire. We get them worked on. We get them back outside the building. As soon as we got back outside the
It's amazing
compound,
that guy. I want to commend you. That's amazing that you guys got tourniquets on all his extremities and kept him alive. You talking about three limbs that are
we should have.
lost?
It was almost a fourth. Like we thought he was going to lose all four.
that's,
Like,
that's amazing that you guys kept him alive. Shout out to whoever
so
was involved in that. All right, cool.
yes, we we get him sorted, and then basically because these guys we're wearing a ton of gear, obviously, and you can't extracting people with gear on is like a whole nother. They just become too heavy, especially when you got to cover the distances.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you before, we couldn't get military vehicles where we were.
Yeah.
So we're in the cell-shaped ambush. We get outside the courtyard, and that's when that's when they decide to engage. So there's this other courtyard that's to the west of it where we came in. That's only like a half wall, so you can kind of see into it. So we're trying to rally the guys through there to get back out to this road. Well, there's basically to our east is this tree line, and they've got like 12 RPKs in there, and they're waiting for us. And so we don't know this at the time, but we start to leave, and all of a sudden we start heavy fire. And basically, me and another sergeant basically have a litter full of gear. So we're on this like this Medal of Honor run down this like very skinny road with like no cover to get to this other. There's one compound that there's this giant like 8-foot high mud hut wall that spans for a pretty good distance. That's like where like really the village is. And then there's a compound that is on the east side of that road that it's along. And so we got to get to that because that's where the Danger Ranger can come pick up the wounded guys.
Check.
And so we got to go down a couple hundred yards in the open, with this tree line to our east that is just, yeah. So we start running. We get like 20 yards or so out, and a ton of fire comes in, and I feel something like hit or pull or something like on my chest. And so like I hit the ground, the guy behind me, we get down, and like luckily their roads are like just these small berms they've made. So we've got about a foot or so that we can get down behind on the west side of the berm to like take some cover.
Yeah.
And so I get down, and Mocha's trying to like chase the tracers that are coming in and out. And so I'm like pulling Mocha to the ground. I'm like, yeah, Mocha, get down here.
Yeah.
And so, she thinks that we're having a blast. So,
just partying.
So I'm like, look at myself, and the other sergeant's like, Williams, good? I was like, yeah, I think I'm good actually. So like I roll over, and like this is the exact moment, like the very first time like I'm engaging the enemy. And so like I see these two guys at the corner of this other building that's to the south a little bit. And at the time I'm carrying an M4 with a 203 and an M9, and I had an HEDP SP round like preloaded into my tube, and that was the first thing I shot, and it landed right at the feet of these two guys, and they both like fall over, and I'm like, sweet, let's go. And so
love the 40 Mike.
Yeah, and so I was like, you ready to go? He's like, yeah, you ready to go? I'm like, so we get up and we have this litter, and we're just like running, and rounds are just fucking going everywhere. And we finally get to this Danger Ranger, and we're throwing everything back of the truck. We get the guys in the back of the truck, the gear in the truck. There's rounds skipping all over the place, and then they leave, and then over the radio, basically the FOB was like, hey, you guys are getting cut off. Like there's a massive force that's trying to cut you guys off. So you guys got to go back the way you just came.
Oh
so luckily they were able to declare us tick, and we were able to get a Cobra on station. So they showed up and started like just unloading into this tree line. So like that suppressed those 12 RPKs that were in the tree line, and that allowed us to basically everyone just like in small groups started just booking it back up this 200-meter piece where there was this one other like dark alley we could go into that actually led backwards to a different, like a safer route. So like we were able to dish down that alley, get into some other compounds, and that allowed us to kind of escape to the west and get further west than they were planning on us getting to.
Gotcha.
But the Danger Ranger could only go that one direction because the other way they couldn't do it. It was too small of gaps to get down go down at least. So, so that was then we get back. Well, first we take cover in that compound that's down that alley, and all the everyone guys that I'd never seen smoke in years are having a cigarette with some of the boots, and everyone's like trying to like, hey, you guys good? Okay, we're good. Okay, we need to get out of here now, like, because there are still reinforcements that are coming in.
Sure.
South.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. How long from the time those two Marines stepped on the IED in the IED making building to the time you get them to the Hilux or the Ranger?
Sorry, from the time say it one more time. From the time the IED
so from the time you stopped the bleeding on the guy that got hit with the IED to the time you got him in the Ranger or the Hilux, whatever it was that was picking him up, how long is that?
I think from the time we had him as stable as we could get him to the time he made it to the Danger Ranger was probably about 6 minutes.
Okay.
Well, no. I took it back. It was probably like 10 minutes or so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
It was
I just want to stress that. I assumed it was that. I didn't know it was that, but I assumed it. I don't think sometimes when I'm talking with a guest or me and you are talking, we're just talking war stories right now, right?
yeah.
I don't think people realize how lightning fast some of that story happens. You know what I
Oh yeah,
mean? Because we're
it's like
telling a story and we're talking about this story, and we're taking one 10-minute section of a story and breathing on it for 20 or 30 minutes. Sometimes I don't think people realize that it was like, boom, chaos, 6 minutes, breathe. Like, I don't think people realize it's like that. Like these guys doing amazing things very quickly. So I just want to stress on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And like when you get into a story, because you're also trying to like tell the story and give depth to the different like aspects that go into the story. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, like for
Absolutely.
example, like just to go further into just to breathe more on it. Like when we first got outside of the compound, that was when we first started taking we had the IED happen, right? And guys are like, especially the new guys are shocked,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Get outside the compound. That's the first time rounds are coming in on these guys.
Yep.
And as soon as I get outside and we start taking like fire from the north and west of us, there's this moment when I like look to my left and look to my right, and like the guy that I deployed with before to Iraq, like he's up and going, but the other guy is like in the field position on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's not a testament to who he is as a man, but like not everyone is built to handle the stress of someone actively trying to kill you. There's no way to train it. There just isn't. There's no two-way range in the world. You know what I mean? Like outside of just being in combat.
Facts.
So, that also plays a part on like how a lot of those scenarios end up falling one way or the other, because this is one guy who's basically like out of the fight. You know what I mean? That you also have to get back, who's not technically injured, but he doesn't have the mental capacity to fire back, to have your six, to communicate, And so that was another thing that I learned in that moment.
How'd you deal with that? Or honestly, his leadership, whoever it was, they just get him up and say, "Hey."
Those guys, once you get them back, typically get blacklisted from going on patrol and stuff. So they end up basically becoming, a FOBIT, for
COGs
lack of a better.
Or SOGs,
Yeah, they just end up helping around the base where they can, because they're just too much of a liability.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, right?
Sure.
There was maybe only I think there was only a few guys in the entire battalion that it happened to. But it does happen, and it's not something that's ever really talked about, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a shameful thing, like you said. Some guys just don't have that bandwidth for that kind of chaos. But we should stress that can happen. Like, and if you're a leader, you got to understand that can happen. And
and I think it's twofold. I think it can happen. It's not a testament to the person. Right. It's just like everyone has different backgrounds, the way they grew up, like everything plays into it. And so not everyone is equipped to handle that stress. And that's just the reality. The second part of that reality is those particular individuals, in my opinion, at least, should not be allowed to come back into a leadership role for a combat unit ever.
I think they would have to somehow prove their mettle. Like, they'd have to go into another chaotic situation like that and show somebody that, hey, that was a one-off. But that's really hard to trust. Because
I watched that side of the house too.
Uh-huh.
There was another. We had a leader in our unit that had a past where that happened to him when he was a younger Marine during the invasion, and then he ended up in a leadership role. And then when push come to shove, like, he put other Marines in really terrible scenarios and positions security wise, because he wouldn't he wouldn't take any risk for himself. Like, he always put his own safety above everyone else's.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And as a leadership, like, that's insane. Like, the fact that they
should
were
be doing the antithesis of that. Yeah, man, but I don't know in my experience that I've seen too many guys make it back to leadership or even aspire to go back to leadership after that. Usually that's
it's rare.
People.
It is rare. But like, those kinds of actions as a leader can get other guys injured and killed.
For sure.
So it's
for sure. I also say that like I would never try to sow disrespect or sow poor behavior or conduct unbecoming, but if you're in combat, man, and you have an inadequate or or a poor leader making poor decisions with other people's lives, man, silence is consent as far as I'm concerned. Somebody should say something. And if that somebody isn't above you, that somebody becomes you. Hey, stop doing this. What are they going to do? Yell at you? Shave your head? Send you to Afghanistan? Who gives a fuck? Because what you
Yeah.
say could stop some of that and might save a life. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and luckily later on people did say things, and it was
mm-hmm,
obviously it was put into AARs for mission stuff.
mm-hmm.
And so to my knowledge at least, I don't believe that person's in anymore. So,
Well, and it's like I had retired General Lawrence Nicholson on here, and he said one of the things that I continue to repeat it because it's so right. The Marine Corps records a lot of lessons, but they don't always change things to get them. We have a lot of lessons recorded, not a lot of lessons learned, and
right.
so we always write the shit down. We'll fill up the Write in the Rain notebook till you're blue in the face. But if we're not then pushing that continually on the new generation, it just goes with the last unit or it goes with the last war, and that's what we're
Well,
not good at.
well, and I think that we're also, you make a good point, but we're also missing a step right there that you're talking about, right? So like we are recording. Why there's not changes because we're not reporting. There's, you know what I mean?
Maybe,
Like
yeah,
the records are there,
yeah,
but reporting on is a whole different story.
yeah. Who's following this up? Yeah.
Yeah, like is
Well,
it like,
and
yeah,
that's
you're
where the
recording
learn
it.
piece is going to come in. You like
Yeah,
report it and then train it, and we don't always do that, which we've gotten better, but as far as I'm concerned, we don't always get that part right.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Okay. Let's move forward. Um,
yeah. So
talk. Yeah.
that's
Let's just walk me through it. Yeah. How,
yeah. So we,
talk to me about this first. Talk to me about the after that first couple of just really chaotic, like welcome to Afghanistan, welcome to Sangin, punch in the face. I want to know how the platoon responded to that and the company responded to that.
I think it was just um, this was my first patrol with the unit, right? So they'd already been there a little bit before I got there because the dogs were. We had to do some other reset training once we got into country to ensure that the dogs had some training on local HME and some other
Yeah. Yeah.
things. And so like they had already been gone kinetic. They were already like getting to that point, right?
Okay.
And so like
Okay.
the platoon had already lost their first guy. Like our platoon was the ones that lost the first guy.
Okay.
And so the very first guy that we lost was one of my guys in my team before I got pulled away.
Okay.
So John Sparks was like he was in my team, and then I got pulled after that to go to PSD, and then he ended up still with the platoon. But
Check.
but so they already had been in a kinetic fight. They'd already gone through that. So the slap in the face had already started for them for the most part. But this was like uh, I, for that squad, they're one of the first big losses, I guess you could say, like seeing a guy like mangled.
Yeah.
So, but I think that with the trajectory that we were on in the deployment, with how many guys we were losing, I mean, we had a span where I think we lost 9 guys in 4 days. Basically, the entire ROE completely shifted. And so for the first time, really since the invasion, maybe like we had an ROE structure where there wasn't much of an ROE. It was like, hey, you felt threatened, you took it out. It was as
Yeah.
close. It was as close that we could have gotten in that time and in that AO to like a black and white solution. Just because of how much of the population was Taliban. Like, yeah, we still, when we did like the Gambadi op or other things like with the 611 op, we still leafleted places and used PSYOP and still did other things where we tried to prep people to say, hey, look, if you're still here when we come through, like, know that you're running a huge risk for your own life.
Sure.
So, but in the same breath, like I said, it was a very different. We were like the only 3-5 had their own ROEs that were very different from anyone else in all of Afghanistan during that time, and so
Mm-hmm.
it was just a very different fight after the first couple months for everybody, which allowed us to get the job done, I think, and go pretty hyper aggressive and really push the Taliban out and get them out of the marketplace so people could stop being taxed on their way in and taxed on their way out.
Yeah.
And that I think we turned a lot of the leadership of Sangin on the local populace like to our side, and that did not bode well. for the Taliban. They didn't
Sure.
like that.
Sure.
But um, yeah, I mean, it I think went, as well as it could have, given the circumstances we had to deal with. We set all sorts of stupid records when it came to like finding IEDs. Like I think it was 1,000+ on the deployment, not
Wow.
including the ones we hit. Um, and so yeah, it was just a crazy time. And then basically like we get into the 611 op, right, which is basically our now the battalion's role is to like clear a huge portion out of the 611 to make it a safe place for us to maneuver from the north part of our AO to the south part of our AO.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bring in like every MICLIC we can from the entire country. And so, we basically get online as a company and we shoot a MICLIC with the engineer tanks. And then we basically clear like room to room through the fields, like up to the end of that where that MICLIC stopped. And then we pull the tanks up and then shoot another one and then just
Yep.
keep going until we got to the edge of the AO. And then that we basically fought out of our packs during that time until we got to like the end point where we set up the last patrol base we were at, which was we dubbed PB Sparks, and that was kind of at the edge of the India AO, just next to not too far from like a place called Route Silver.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set up shop there, and we basically just lived out of a giant mud hut compound that was four corners.
Four corners.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, did you guys, was that platoon then? Platoon size?
Yeah, platoon plus.
Platoon plus living out of that.
Yep.
Now you're running your own ops and doing your own security and your own patrolling effort and everything out of that then?
Yep.
Yep. And you guys got 81s with you or just 60s?
Just 60s.
Okay. Okay. And any vehicles?
We had a couple MATVs.
Okay.
Not a lot. Most of our stuff, based on where we was foot patrol.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of those roads and canals and shit didn't support that weight.
Yeah, because we were like right off of the main, that new 611, kind of like MSR, because we were right off of that, and because we had Route Silver that kind of went down into the Wadi, we had a couple vehicles, but we just didn't use them a whole lot.
Yeah. And you said the Brits were over there in that area too, right? In the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see their vehicles?
I don't think we
remember
saw
them?
any of the Brit vehicles, like they ran the same issue as us, right? There was not a whole lot of places to run military vehicles. So
yeah, in 10 and Marja they had these no armor, no door, almost dune buggy like vehicles because of that, I think. And they were
now the Marine Corps Army has a
skinnier
lot of those.
wheelbase. Yeah, they were kind of like that. And buddy, at the time I was like, fuck no. I want the steel wrapped around me if I'm in a vehicle because they're shooting machine guns at us here. Like it was way less of an IED threat in Marja in the beginning, at least. And then it started to pick up as we killed some of the shooters, or most of the shooters. Then the IED presence I was going to pick up, right? And if you're if you're getting hit by an IED in one of those no skin dune buggy, you're all fucking dead. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, with what they were using, and then with Sangin, because they got resupplied by, I don't know if you remember this, but like I think it was like a day or two after Obama approved the troop increase, Putin put out a statement like a day or two later and said, "You're making the same mistake we did in the '80s." You know what I mean? And so they were like, we were getting our MATVs were getting hit by like double stack anti-tank mines. They were like splitting them in half. Like it was an insane amount of stuff. And really what they were doing, like, the Taliban doesn't have radar, right? So their radar was just how many IEDs can we implant? Because like you hit something and they're there. Like they wouldn't amass like troops anywhere, right? They would just wait for an IED to go off and like, oh well, this is the direction we got to go to engage them because
you can hear it.
Or the local populace would signal them. Like they were using signal mirrors.
Oh yeah.
They started to use balloons. So once a patrol would go by a place, you see a balloon go up. So
balloons, burning tires in the streets. I've seen that.
Kites.
Yeah, man, they're not they might not have sonar or radar, buddy, but they got means to travel that word, that's for sure. Yeah.
I like telling this one story that kind of gives really people a really good idea and a perspective of where things were for them at the time. And there was a predator drone that went down, and there was 2 squads that were released to go try to recover it. And so we have these little radar. I don't know if you remember, these little radar dishes you can use, and if you use both of them, if there's icons chattered, you can like triangulate the position, and you can like listen to what they're saying and stuff.
Yep.
And so the interpreters, these like 10 military age males around this fucking predator drone that had gone down, And they're all talking about like after like an hour and 20 minutes of deliberation, these 10 dudes have all decided that the military, the US must have trained small mice to fly these planes because they don't know how else they're flown.
Is that what they're really saying?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
legit like they thought that we had trained some sort of small, like animal or mice or mouse or rat or something
They didn't
to
realize
fly
they
the
were
plane.
unmanned. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they didn't realize like that was a possibility.
Yeah. That's who we're
But
fighting. Yeah. Yeah, but you give
but I
that
mean,
guy a sniper rifle or a PKM, he'll hold a platoon down for a minute.
I know, but that's the crazy part, right? It's like, people, you know, yeah, just like it doesn't matter how much tech you have.
No.
You know what I mean? Like a guy with a gun can still do a lot of damage if they have any kind of training,
Yeah.
or if they're supported by any sort of back end or asset or comms or anything. Like there's just, it's guerrilla warfare at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah, I know in some of the places I was in, they didn't understand fixed wing aircraft. Like they understood helicopters, they knew to be afraid of them, and they just did not understand long range weapons. They didn't understand rockets. They didn't understand HIMARS. They didn't understand fixed wing. They didn't understand long range bolt guns. They just didn't understand it. That's wild to
yeah.
me. All right. So, okay, so one more question I have just about the general feel of things. Do you feel like in that opening couple of smacks in the face to the platoon, to the company, to the squads that you're talking about, do you feel like it became um an emotion or sensation of fear or an emotion or sensation of let's go fucking kill them? Or a
Yeah,
mix?
yeah, man. Well, I don't think there was as much fear. I think that we talked about in another conversation we've had about the color codes, right? We had
Cooper,
if you were good to go, you were green, like mentally, a mental color code. If you were black, you were the guy that got nixed from patrols,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then you have it everything in between. Well, I think that you know after the first couple months, you could say like, oh, I'm green. I was green. Like I did my mission. We went out. We did our thing. We killed the enemy. Yada yada yada. But I think when it comes to a certain point in kinetic operations, when you're receiving that level of fight from the enemy, when you're like in it every day across the entire AO and every single platoon is getting some, that you probably go to a point where like yeah you're green, but like it's because you've actually set aside any hope for your own security or your own personal safety. You know
Mm-hmm,
what I mean?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, you have to just accept what's going to happen. Like, okay, you're going to flip a coin today, and maybe it's my turn to get hit, maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a level of like kind of insanity that you could probably that goes along with being in the green if you're in the kinetic piece for that long, day in day out for 7 months.
Yeah.
And so there was guys
And I'm
that
sure
I
you've seen
watched.
that then, watch, right? You've seen guys
Oh yeah,
laughing in combat or laughing at close calls.
yeah, the combat giggles.
Yep.
That's what I call them.
Yep.
Like you're like, what else are you gonna do?
That's
You
all you
might as well
can
just
do.
you might as well just enjoy the ride and keep going. Or there was guys just making it like a legitimate, you know, joke or game of it. You know what I mean? Where guys were like, there was one place called Route Carrot, and we went down there one time, and one of the younger guys on their first deployment like asks to be handed the MGL. So I'm like, yeah, sure, man, take it. And he gets up on the berm. Rounds are like skipping through the trees past him. They're clearly trying to like kill this dude. And he's just on the berm, just launching 40 Mike. He's like, I'm noob tubing it up, just using Call of Duty references.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And he gets down, he's like, oh man, I just got mad Call of Duty points. There's no way, like, and I'm like, what? And there was
But
another
I'm
instance where
green.
one of the guys, yeah, there was another instance where one of the guys was, like, just threw his K bar down an alleyway, and we're like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, we're not gonna help you go get that. He's like, well, there was just fire from down there, and I was like, really hoping the guy was gonna step out into it and I would get some mad Call of Duty points.
Oh god.
Like, well, I'm not sending Mocha down there. I'm not wasting her life because you're a dumbass.
Yeah. Don't be
Like, go get your
stupid.
shit.
Yeah.
He's dumbass. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
I mean,
it's
I've,
just
I've
shit.
seen guys throw American flags on their back of their kit and run out to draw fire so they could drop mortars on people. I've seen like I've seen human beings get to that. Nah, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like
There's
I
there's a
think for me I got to that point too. And I think most people that are thriving in combat probably accept it is what it is kind of a situation. And for me, it wasn't even it is what it is. It was like 3 days in, I made my peace with God, you know, like this is bad. This one and it's never been like this. This is wild, and I just didn't. I got to a place where it was like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill as many of them as I can before they kill me. The the cool thing about that is anybody that's ever gotten to that place and that flow state maybe in their head that they just don't care. I'm in this and I'm going to do it the best that I can. It makes you really dangerous. It makes you really dangerous because you're not apprehensive. You know what needs done and you just do it. And you don't even think about the rounds, right? And when guys get in that, that's when it's fun to watch Marines for me. Like just to step back and watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, like I said before, like that deployment was, you know, like the epitome of like being a grunt. Like you got to see like the full force and might of the U.S. military. We dropped ordnance every day.
Yep.
Like, and like our patrols would count on it. Like, hey, we're gonna drop 60s here. We're gonna drop 81s. You know, there was a couple times we went out. It's like we dropped 60s, 81s, 120s. We did fire for effect artillery missions, like dropping 500 pounders and HIMARS. Like, it was a daily thing.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean, and you know, unfortunately, we also lost a lot of guys, and so there came a time in the deployment, especially towards the end, where like the snipers were just tired, man. They're like, if there was a shot to be taken, they'd hand you the sniper, like, now you go do it. Like, you know, like, you got to shoot like everything as a standard ground. Like, you got to partake in everything, because like, you know, and we only had a couple of JTACs to the entire, but you know, the entire AO. So a lot of times the calls on the radio just fucking some Lance corporal saying, yeah, tip your wings, send it, like danger close.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's just it was from
Was
that
there a lot
standpoint,
of danger close missions on that deployment?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
all of them. Like
Oh
very,
yeah. Okay.
very few were not. You know, I mean, we definitely dropped some stuff that wasn't danger close, but in almost I would say like 90+% of them, like, yeah, you're within 100 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or even a couple hundred yards. You know, you're pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, that's close,
So,
man. And then that the complications from that's a finicky bitch right there. Bringing ordnance in like that. What's the closest call you had with that?
well, there was a planned version of this, I guess. Like, we went out to route care at one time, and basically, like, we knew that we always took contact from one side, and we had basically like there was like this infill spot to route care, and then there was like this I think it was like a cornfield to our kind of like behind us as we'd come into it, and then a tree line that would go up against some water. Well, there was one time we went down to route care, and we actually started taking contact from like our side of the berm, basically, for the first time. And so they had tried to like L shape us again. Well, we had to exfil out of this area. We had preset 60s to go off. And so I've got some like helmet cam footage where like we're like in this fight, and then like we're going to exfil. I turn around behind me, and there's like airburst HE like going off, like, you know, maybe 60 yards behind me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So we can like get out of there. And so that was just, again, it was like one of those moments of, you know, watching just like what's possible, like being the U.S. military, like how fine tuned we are as an operating force, that we can do things like that, you know, and not around guys, for the most part. But you know, there's a lot. I mean, there was still a lot of close calls too, obviously. You know what I mean? I was around a lot of blasts. There's blasts every day. You know, I took around through the gear. There was a time before the end of the deployment where this was one of the closer calls that I had personally, and it was basically we were set. Went out with this one particular squad. They were going to go raid this other compound that was out on the edge of this finger, and then we had set up a support by fire position on another finger that was adjacent to it, that had kind of an overwatch view from one hill to the other hill. And so we set up a machine gun team on the rooftop, and there was a pretty steep slope that this compound was built into. And it's like one of the local leaders, and you could basically like walk from the hill like onto the rooftop, basically. And so like we had machine guns up there. We handed them the radio. Me and the youngest Marine at the time that was left was with me in the bottom. We were just holding security, and then the raid force was basically hitting this compound. And so the machine guns were like, you know, shift fires, cease fires. They're doing their thing,
Mm-hmm.
and every few minutes or 10, 15 minutes, however much would go by, and I would call up to the guys on the roof, like, hey, you guys good? Yeah, we're good. This is what they're doing. They give some sort of update. So me and the other kid on the ground would have an idea of what's going on, how much longer we got. And all of a sudden, there's this one time where I'm like, hey, you guys good? Crickets.
Talking to the guys on the roof, you mean?
Yeah, the guys on the roof, right? Because we don't have a radio, so we're relying on them to kind of tell us what's going on. So I raised my voice a little bit. I'm not trying to like scream. I'm not trying to like make it well known, because we're trying to like be a little bit stealthy.
Sure.
Trying to totally give our spot away. And so they don't respond. So I call up a couple more times. They don't respond. So I'm like, look, I tell the other guy, I'm like, look, I'm gonna hold security on the group that's in here, right? I need you to go out the door, go up the side of the compound on the to the back of the hill to see on the rooftop, see if the guys are there. So he goes outside, comes back in, and he's like, hey, they're not there. I'm like, what do you mean they're not there? He's like, there's no blood, there's no gear, they're not there. I'm like, fuck.
Now, where was the rest of the squad?
So they had basically like calmed over. They got done with the mission at this one particular spot. They'd raided it. They'd already started to like basically like RTB.
Okay.
And the machine gun team, plus I think there was like 4 guys on the rooftop. Those guys bounced off the back of the hill and met up with the squad and left.
So they were almost like overwatching the exfil of the squad and then tucked in with them, but just forgot to tell you guys.
Yeah, they just forgot to say, hey, guys on the ground.
And you're an attached dog handler who they know and they know is attached, and the other kid is a boot in that actual squad.
Okay, the other kid is a boot in that actual squad who is typically the radio operator.
Okay, so he's probably not a stupid Marine then.
No, and obviously at the time the SOP was like, you got your minesweeper, and then if you have a dog, the next person in line in that patrol is me, is the guy with the dog, because I'm the one helping find IEDs. And
absolutely.
So, the fact that these guys were able to patrol all the way back to like down this one particular route.
How many yards are we talking? Like, are they way away from you?
Yeah, I mean it's a click.
Oh Jesus Christ! Okay.
Yeah, like we're not close.
Solo mission up.
Yeah. So in this other Marine, I'm looking at him because I'm an attachment, so like I don't know that at the time like I got briefed on very little, you know what I mean? And I also didn't have like, because I was an attachment, like there was just things that didn't line up for us getting what we needed sometimes, especially just sometimes it was just straight up resupply, like we just couldn't get enough stuff because of where we were, like resupplies couldn't get to us sometimes. And so we're out there, and luckily, in my head, I'm thinking, cool, this Marine has stuff for the no comms plan, for the signal plan. So he's got a Red Star cluster, and he's got and then that was the one thing they had for the signal plan.
Sure.
And then he had an extra green smoke. So we can see the patrol way out there down the main MSR, because there's like this route we would take that would go back up, because like I said, our main patrol base was up on this hill.
Yep.
In the middle of nowhere, up on the top of this finger, and so like we would use this one particular route that could get us up and down the hill that had a lot of like defilades, so we had a lot of cover getting in and out. And so they were like heading out that direction, and we can see them because we're on the finger too, so on the adjacent finger on down further, so we could like see over everything and see where they're at.
Yeah. And
I'm like, oh shit, like we don't want to yell because there's obviously going to be enemy between us and them, so we're not trying to like give too much, like I mean, obviously after we shoot the Red Star cluster, things are going to be known, but I'm like, okay, like let's just do that. So we shoot the Red Star cluster, and you can see the patrol stop, and they're all like, you can tell they're kind of looking around, and like they're all talking to each other. Like you can tell they're like probably searching their own gear to see if they've got their pyro and their bullshit. And then they keep going, and I'm like, there's no fucking way. I'm like, you just saw a Red Star cluster, like military grade pyro, go off from where you just were. You're missing 2 Marines and a dog, and their EDL, like all their kit, and they keep going. So I'm like, holy shit, there's no fucking way we're gonna get left behind, like totally left behind. And so I'm like, what else do you have? He's like, oh, I've got this smoke. I'm like, all right, let's get you up on the roof, so like it will plume and try to get that plume as high as we can. So we get a ladder, get him up on the roof like as fast as we can. Like luckily there was like a ladder like right there. He gets up on the roof, and he like drops the grenade on the roof, and he comes down and it plumes and it goes off, and you can see them stop again. Like the tail end of the patrol's there, and they stop. He calls it up like, "Hey, there's green smoke," or something. How had them stop, and so they're all like, probably doing their thing, and then the tail end of the patrol just goes up the hill, and they just move into the defilade, and like they're gone.
Oh,
So,
what was your thoughts when they disappeared?
so all this commotion, right, had like that local leader come out of the room that I was holding those guys in. They're held up in. The whole family was in there while we were doing our op. He comes out and he's like, "Mister, two?" And I'm like, "Yeah, two. I fucking understand it's a problem." Because he saw everyone that was there. He's like, "What the fuck?" And so like, and so I look over at the younger Marine, and he's just got that look on his face, like, just utterly, shocked and terrified. He's like, he's getting panicky, I'm like, "Look, man, I'm gonna get us back. Like, don't worry about it. We're just gonna go back. Like, we're not gonna stay out here because obviously
they didn't catch on.
Don't believe they obviously haven't caught on, and who knows if they're even gonna catch on once they get back to the patrol base. Like, if in the moment you can't realize that you're missing the second most critical asset to finding IEDs in your patrol in like the most heavily IED like area in the GWAT, you know what I mean? Like, if you're missing 2 Marines and a dog, like, fuck me even. Like, if you're missing a fucking dog.
Yeah, the dog's like, what's keeping you alive.
Yeah, like, how am I supposed to believe that you're going to get there and realize that you got to come back anyways? So I told him, I'm like, "Look, we're just going to figure this out, man." So like the local leader ends up being like, kind of like is motioning me to follow him. And so I'm like, "You know what? Like, what do we have to lose?" So we end up following this guy. And we didn't know this until this exact moment, but he actually had like a private, like, secret tunnel, like rat tunnel, that went from his place all the way down to the marketplace on Route Silver.
Now, is that towards where you need to go?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So that gets us like at least down to there, like, pretty securely. And so we're like, I'm following this guy down this, like, and at this point we have no idea what we're being led into. Right. So we're just going down this like dark tunnel.
Oh my God, man.
Like into who knows what, with like lights strung along. Like, this is like some, like, Vietnam shit.
Yeah.
And so we're going down this tunnel, and it ends up on Route Silver. Like, holy shit, this is awesome. And so there's, in the marketplace, they would just have like some string up with like a sheet on it, and that was like how they like show that they were closed or open, if the sheet was hold across the front of it or not. And so this guy's like just like looking over his sheet and looking around, and he's like, "Okay, Mister," he's like, "Go." And I'm like, like, "You coming with me?"
Yeah, you first.
So I've got this local leader like by the shoulder, like just walking him down this main MSR with like, and I told the other guy, I'm like, "Hey man, just stay like 10 yards behind me. I'll have Mocha be searching, and like we'll just get as far as we can down Route Silver until we can get close to that other main defilade piece." And so, we get like 20, 30 yards down the road, and he realizes what's going on. He's like, "Mister, no." He's like, "No more." And so because he doesn't want to get spotted with us anyway. So,
yeah, you can get him killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just turns around and starts running, and I'm like,
"That's bad."
"All right, man. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna run, and you're gonna run, and if I hit it, you just keep going." Like, just take Mocha and just go. Yeah. So we just start booking.
Did you send the dog out in front of you though, or can she not clear?
I tried to control her as much as I could while I was running. Like, it's not typical, you know what I mean? So I tried to just keep pushing her forward.
Yeah.
And so she was trying to do her job, right? But she's also like excited because it's just not something typical of running and running the dog.
Yeah. Now, how much further do you have to traverse now? At that point, when you start running.
Again, my memory isn't all there, like, trying to place exactly, but I want to say it was probably like a few hundred yards, like in the open, like. And so the main MSR is like it's flanked by 2 fingers, so you've got like buildings up these. It's a sniper's wet dream. There's just 2 Marines running down the fucking middle of the road by themselves, and a dog.
Yeah.
And so we're just sprinting it, and luckily, nothing happens. I think that maybe what the raid guys did, like, put enough pressure on that side of the MSR.
Nobody was fucking around. Yeah.
And maybe they were scoping that part out. So we finally get back down this road, and we like hang a left to go back south and up towards our patrol base, and go this like pretty steep, like I said, this alleyway that not a whole lot of people use because of how steep it was. And so we get up to this compound that was not too far, like maybe 90 yards or so, or pretty close to our compound. That was called the Spy's House. And so this guy would like help us. He was like one of the local people that would like help mark where IEDs were, like, privately, and like he would try to tip us off of if anything shady was happening. but we had also like at the time, like in Sangin, like you didn't use, it wasn't like Fallujah. You didn't just patrol down an alleyway. Like you would, our patrol routes were like squiggly lines, and every single wall you hit, you just blew a hole in it, and you would never use the same hole. So like
Yeah.
one person's house or compound would have like 12 holes in it. It would just be a Swiss cheese, and so.
And you're
Obviously, we
doing
didn't
that
have all
because they're laying in IEDs into all your holes
they're
too,
booby
right?
trapping stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're we get to the spy's house. There's one of the holes that's open. He hadn't patched it up yet, and so we're like, we go in through the hole, and he's like, oh, he's like, hello, and he's like, Mister Two. I'm like, yeah, fucking, I get it too. Like, I understand there's a problem. He's like, oh, no good. I'm like, I know. So we're like getting through his compound, and like right as we get around like the next corner, the ass end of the patrol is like, there's three guys that just come sprinting around the corner, and they see us, and they like hit their, they like slow down, like there's huge like whew, like relaxed moment. They like put their hands on their knees, and they're like out of breath because they're just sprinting like the whole like 100 yards like back from like
They
friendly
thought y'all
lines,
were
like, back
dead.
out. Yeah, they were just glad we weren't on fucking Al Jazeera net already with our heads being chopped off.
Yeah.
So so they come around the corner, and like obviously I am more than pissed. I am probably more mad than I've ever been in my entire life.
At who though?
Not just for me, but for the other guy as well. And so we're only like 100 yards out, so we get back to the patrol base, and at that point I'm like, I'm not running, I'm not taking my time, I don't give a shit if I die. Like I just got back that far, like I'm walking. I get back into the patrol base, and like as I enter the patrol base, like it was hard for me not to express my discontent, but it just happened. So like I'm not metaphorically, but I am literally dropping my gear. I take my Kevlar off, I throw it on the ground, I drop my fucking rifle, I de-gear, I drop my fucking pad, I drop everything, Sorry. And the lieutenant is like, he's like, I'm so sorry, Williams. I'm like, no, there's no sorries that fix this right now, and I'm never going back out. Do not ever ask me to go back out on patrol with that squad leader.
Did you ever have words with him?
No.
Yeah.
I told him to fuck off, never talk to me again. That was the end. That was the last.
That's the words I was wondering about. Yeah.
I was like, don't ever expect for me to do anything for you again.
And how long into the deployment was that?
That was like really close to the end. There was maybe.
Was it like complacency, you think? Just complacency set in, or urgency to get back because you're that short time? Like, what do you think what led to that?
Honestly, like, he just wasn't a very good squad leader to begin with. He wasn't very competent. He wasn't the kind of guy that inspired. Like, he was just what they were stuck with, to be honest, in my opinion.
Okay,
I mean?
check.
Like, he wasn't a guy that could PT his guys. Like, he just
just weak.
Yeah, just weak.
Okay.
He didn't. I don't think he really cared.
Yeah, weak is weak.
Yeah. So
sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah. So we get inside friendly lines, and I'm just I'm pissed, and telling him like I'm just not doing that again. And I told him like, look, you're either gonna give me and this other guy a week off, or I'm going up the chain of command, and like everyone's gonna hear about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just didn't fuck with us for a week, and we got back to work after that. But
fair enough.
It was just and it was one of those things where it's just like, oh man, like when you grow up in the Marine Corps, and you're like, it's drilled into your head like no Marine left behind, like that's just not something we do. And then it happens, and like that it happens, man. It's like shit happens, but like for it to happen for that many different things to have failed, like that many points of failure is unacceptable. Like shit happens. Where like when things are super kinetic and chaotic and whatever, but if you've already completed like the main effort of the mission, your RTB, and like
the stressful side of that mission's gone.
Yeah, and you completely ignore the signal plan. Like you have a lost Marine signal plan, and you totally ignore it. You know what I mean? And it's not until you've already completely returned to base that you realize you're missing not just one Marine, 2 Marines, and a fucking dog. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's why I was so mad. You know what I mean? Like,
you that's perfect right to be mad, in my opinion. Absolutely. I would have been very irritated myself.
Yeah, and so so that goes down, and then like things really start to slow down a little bit through the winter months. They don't. The Taliban's got a great HR program. Like if it's raining, they're not out there.
Yeah.
If it's tea time, they're not fighting either. So
Yeah, gotta have that chai.
yeah, so it slows down a little bit in the winter months, and it's tougher for unfortunately, like operationally for the dogs, it's tougher. Like it's just everyone just everything just slowed down, and so like we're getting close to the end of the deployment, and then the winter months are starting to subside. We're getting to March April timeframe, and yeah, so then we're just getting ready to go home.
Sure. Sure. Now, did you have any other big ticks after that, or was does that kind of wind you down?
So that most of the battalion has wound down. We've lost a bunch of dudes so far. We've had excuse me. We've had a combat replacements come out. They've had their own issues during the deployment. But yeah, we're basically mostly winding down, all the way up, until when I thought I was in the clear, I was like, man, in the morning there's patrols coming out to get me, a convoy's coming out to get me. I'm going back to Jackson. I'm getting on an Osprey, and I'm going the fuck home. This is gonna be awesome, you know. And so at the time, we'd lost so many guys by the time of the deployment. My role, in the evening time, from around 1800 to 06, I was like corporal of the guard, right? And then from, from 06 to like 08 or so, or maybe like around 9, 10 in the morning, I would have off, and then I would spend like an hour, getting Mocha on some like reset training, and then we'd go out on patrol for like some hours and come back, and that was kind of like the daily 24-hour rotation for everybody. So there's our last night there, and I think it's around 1 in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier. I can't remember the exact time, but so at the time we're in this 4-corner compound up on this hill, and so post 1, 2, 3, 4. Post 1 is the northwest, post 2 is northeast, then southeast, southwest for 3 and 4. And so I go out to use the restroom, and all of a sudden, post 2's like, Corporal Williams, I got a guy, and I'm like, does he have a gun? They're like, yeah. I'm like, cool, you should take him. I'm like, Corporal Williams, I got 2 guys. I'm like, do they both have guns? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you should probably take them. And he's like, okay. So I hear, psh, 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 psh. He's like, Corporal Williams, I got him. Like, you want a fucking cookie? Like, all of a sudden, all hell like breaks loose, and so like
Coming back
I'm
at
running
you.
back to the yeah, so I'm like running back to the control tent. There's fucking rounds coming in and out from all directions, and I'm looking on the Sempernet on the radio on the laptop, and it's like all the patrol bases around us. Like, dude, it looks like fucking Star Wars over there. We're like, what the fuck's going on? And we've got 8 guys in an LPOP outside the fucking wire,
Oh man.
and they're like surrounded. We're surrounded, and our lead machine gunner runs in. He's got a map. He's got a map, and he's like, "This is us, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You see all these red dots?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "There's 25 of them." I'm like, "There's 25 guys." He's like, "No, those are just firing points. I don't know how many people are actually out there." I'm like, "Oh shit." So Intel had forgot to fucking pass down or brief our platoon that our platoon AO got 92 new fighters in overnight.
Yummy.
And we already had seen the British had at PB Transformer, they had tried to overrun that patrol base that was like northwest of us, like during their like last stint there right before we got there. And those guys were like turning inside the patrol base and shooting guys behind them. And so that's what they basically tried to do in this scenario. So like we get in there, we're declared tick, and at the time troops in contact meant that anything in the air got rediverted to you because shit has hit the fan.
Yep.
And so we're actually the only Marine platoon ever to have our own like B-2 bomber check on station for like a singular event like this. And so they check on station, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna drop a 2,000-pound JDAM. You guys ready?" We're like, "Fuck yeah, drop it." They're like, how far out of there? Like, it's danger close. They're like, "How danger close?" I'm like, "We just dropped a grenade on a dude over the wall."
All
like,
the way close.
Yeah, really close. They're like, "Well, we can't do that. We'll kill everybody." We're like, "Oh, okay." So like, just tell everyone to stay on the fucking wall and get their nods on. So everyone gets out there, and like and I didn't know this at the time. Like, I'd never seen anything like this, but like they have this giant FLIR system that can not only like track moving targets, but they can like IR like beam them. So it's like playing Call of Duty. They're just lighting dudes up, and all you got to do is shoot, like pull the trigger. And they don't know they're being lased. You know what I mean? So they don't know they're being tracked or anything. So they go up in altitude so they can stay on station and provide this kind of coverage. And then to 2 fixed wing check on station, 2 F-18s, I think. No, it was 2 Harriers. Like they dropped 2 500-pounders to like the east and southeast of us, and then an A-10 checks on. They do a couple gun runs and go Winchester on their ammo, and then 2 Cobras come in. They go Winchester on their ammo. And so right as the 2 Cobras are coming on, though, we're still running out of ammo, and so our main assaultman comes in. The tent, he's like, hey, I'm gonna shoot the rockets. We're like, good to go, like be safe. And so like he goes out. You're not supposed to shoot more than 3 rockets in a day. It doesn't matter like what kind, like, but you're especially it was an assaultman, so you're used to shooting the small, but not more than 3 in a day. And if you are at 3 in a day, it's like 4 hours in between. Like you gotta have some like standoff because of the amount of like concussion and everything else to fuck you up. So he comes back after shooting 8 rockets. And he's bleeding from the ears, and he's like, "I shot all the rockets." We're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I shot all the rockets." Like, is there anything more to shoot? And he's just like running back to the magazine. And we're like, "I don't think so." And so we start to realize that we're actually running out of ammo. And so like we call over to Jackson, and like they've sent out a convoy to get us more ammo, but we're like slowly running out. And so we realize that we've got still some 40 mic in the gun in one of the MATVs. So I get in the driver's seat, and I just back it up, and we throw one of the guys in the turret, and he's just basically like lobbing rounds over to the east in between the 2 posts. Like post 2 and post 3 are just like walking him on the different targets, you know,
nice.
visually. And so as this is happening, the Cobras are overhead just laying down stuff, and then the other patrol finally the convoy gets there, and they're just throwing shit out of the back, and those guys are picking it up and just throwing it into the post, and those guys are just picking it up and rocking and rolling, you know. And after hours go by of this, and we're just just lighting up the entire area, and we ended up one guy catches like a very, very minor skip off his feed tray off his 240, and so he like takes a grazing round across his cheek, and that was like the worst thing casually, like that was the worst injury that happened. We didn't lose anybody. There, I thought I was going home. Well, no, like I gotta stay around because they gotta send guys out to do a BDA now this AO, and I think there was like 740 something confirmed kills on the deployment or something like that. And like
how many were in that fight?
Like 120.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was like 120 like plus. Basically, like there was 120, and then there was all these other parts of bodies that I guess that were out there.
Yeah, who knows how many
that they couldn't confirm.
Was, yeah,
and the whole morning we're just watching these other like females show up with fucking wheelbarrows, just like wheelbarrowing out parts and bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was.
So you had a wild opening coming in and a wild out.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole AO was like that though. Like the entire deployment, like everyone was like, every day there was firefights. Like, somewhere in the AO, like each company, each platoon was like, that had somebody out there, like they were getting into it somewhere.
Yeah. Wild. So, I don't know, I guess talk to me a little bit about your headspace coming out of that one. Was it different? Was it obviously different? Was it the same as Fallujah? You know what I mean? Did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think very clearly and obviously, for obvious reasons, very different than Fallujah. You know what I mean? Like it went from, Fallujah being what we thought it was going to be, but it wasn't. And then going into Afghan, and for the first time engaging with the enemy, and watching the loss of life, taking life, like it's all, like just there's no way to not be different after that, right? So
yeah,
like I come back, and for me, it was difficult for everybody, but within the first 48 hours of me being home, I got a call from headquarters of Marine Corps that were trying to get a hold of my parents, because my little brother had got hit in southern Helmand, because we were out there like around the same time. And so, within 2 days of me being home, like actually the day after I got home, my mom was in the hospital. Like they were down to visit me for my homecoming. She ended up having to go to the hospital. She was like nearly died. And then while she was in the hospital, like with us not knowing she was going to make it, we got this call from headquarters of Marine Corps, and my brother got blown up. So I was like, fuck, am I going to get home and lose my mom and my brother in the same week?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like my headspace, like I kind of at some level kind of reverted to my training. Like I didn't have like a breath to take really, to try to work on myself or think about anything that I'd gone through. Cause like within after I told the Marine Corps that, after I told my command that, they're like, hey, we're going to work on getting you out there so you can be with your brother, because he's going to need you. And so I go TDY the moment I get home. I don't even go on leave for block leave,
Yeah.
post deployment or anything. I'm immediately TDY out to Bethesda. So
What?
I spent the next.
What did he get hit? Where did he get hit at?
He was in Southern Helmand, so he was with Third LAR. It ran over his. He was in the Comvic for the PSD unit, and they hit a like 120-pound IED,
Yeah.
and it rocked him pretty good.
Check.
Luckily he survived.
Yeah.
But there was tons of physical therapy, learning how to walk again. They had to, won't go too into detail, but he got pretty messed up, and so over the next 6 months or so, like I'm TDY. I'm with
Or
him.
you were
Like, I'm
with him
traveling.
through all of it then?
Yeah, like I'm
Oh,
traveling
cool.
the country to different trauma units and stuff. So we start in Bethesda, then he gets moved to the West Coast to be closer to his unit and family, and so I spend like a month in Bethesda, and then we spend I think 3 to 4 months at the trauma care unit in Stanford because they got a really good trauma unit up there, and then from there he gets transferred to down to San Diego
Check.
to be part of the Wounded Warrior Battalion. So then I spend like a month or so there, and then finally like he gets really stable. So I make it back to 3-5. They're getting ready for their next workup. So
Check. What was what was it like seeing your brother hurt? Because you're
oh
both
man, that
Marines,
was
so you know that can happen. And just like I have a bunch of siblings, like I'm one of 7 or 8. I don't know how many, a bunch. And if one of them gets hurt, I know how that makes me feel, but none of them are Marines. None of them are in that profession, so I wondered, what's that like?
um. I mean, I guess I don't have a perspective other than my own, um, but I think that you know us both, him kind of following my footsteps, both knowing that we're both taking that risk and understanding that risk. I think that it wasn't as I don't think it was as much of a shock to me as it would have been had I not just been seeing what Hellman was like, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I had just dealt with a lot of loss, and so like I don't think it. Obviously, I was pissed and angry and sad and like because the first call we got was like, we just know that he's on a plane to Germany. We're not sure if he's going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're told, until he finally gets transferred, gets stable in Germany, and they send him over to Bethesda. So like we finally see him, and I'm just uh, still dealing with all my own stuff internally, trying to be there to support him, trying to like
Mm-hmm.
not show that I have my own things to deal with too, because he doesn't need that. He needs like
Mm-hmm.
support and and so I've kind of just pushed everything that I was dealing with to the left, so I could deal with him and try to keep things moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just remember just being really pissed, like, and like I wanted to go back over and like, just get after it again, but yeah, just it was tough, and it was really tough, obviously on my mom too, because she basically was unconscious. Like she saw me come home, the next day she was unconscious in the hospital, and then 2 days later she wakes up to like her other son, like and realistically, like my parents were, and I guess in some cases rightfully so, they were more worried about me and where I was going in my deployment than they were with him and where he was going, because where he was going was technically safer.
Yeah.
Like where he was going was not as kinetic as where I was, and he wasn't with a line unit. He was with a PSD element, so like they're typically not going out to the flot and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when she woke up to that, it was pretty rough. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's tough. I can imagine. I can imagine that's tough. So how long total were you TDY with him?
I want to say it was close to 6 months.
Okay. And then you
Close
come
to
back to
6 months.
3-5 and they're in a workup again. And you just jump right back into the swing or jump into the training cycle at least, or no?
Yeah, so I had gotten back, and there was like this, like obviously like you don't know the exact, like you don't always know exactly where you're going next, because there was this back and forth with basically headquarters Marine Corps on like, okay, like are we going to send 3-5 back into the fray after going through something like that? And so it ended up that no, they weren't going to do that to 3.5. They wanted to give 3.5 a break. So then they decided to go on a MEU. And it was around the time that they decided that I was like just getting back. And so they were looking at what they needed to obviously stand up the unit to be ready to go on the MEU. And so, and I don't know if they still do it, but at the time they were still doing the SOC platoon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were hand selecting guys to do the special operations capable platoon. And because I'd already gone through the Raider package stuff, because I was already, urban assault leader combat or CQB instructor thing, because I'd already gone through like most of the survival courses that, like I was, and being PSD and having all these different training events that I've been through, they initially were like, hey, we want you to help stand up the starting of the SOC platoon. So they'd hand selected a bunch of new boots that had come in, along with some other corporals and guys that were kind of at the same peer group as I was and same level of training. And so my role initially was to kind of start standing up the SOC platoon and get them trained up on CQP and start to get them ready to start training with other special forces units and go through some other more high intensity program stuff. So we get I got like 4 months into that, and basically the battalion realized that they had to let me go. So like I had come to a point in my enlistment, on that second enlistment, where like I couldn't be a grunt anymore. I couldn't stay with the Victory unit. I had to go do something that would help me out with the B billet for picking up staff and things like that. So they're like, hey, you can go be a DI or you can go to Weapons Field Training Battalion. And so I was like, well, I don't want to be a DI, so I'll go to Weapons Field Training Battalion and see what that's about. So then I got geared up to go there.
Hell yeah. What did you think about Weapons Field Training Battalion when you were there? You loved it?
When I first got there, I was really stoked on it. I thought it was going to be like a good gig, and I liked training guys. Like I was at that point in my career where like I liked training. I was pretty moto.
Oh yeah.
I liked being able to help where I could, and try to teach guys. And and there was a when myself and the other guys from my peer group started going out. So one of my buddies went to the East Coast to be part of that training group out there for Weapons Field Training Battalion and SOI out there, also SOI East. When that peer group started getting out into the wild of the Marine Corps, just like our sergeant major said, like this is gonna make you this and so when we all got to where we're going, they were like, oh, you were 3.5, so you were in Sangin? Yeah. And so it was just kind of an immediate like respect level.
Yep.
Even as like a junior Marine or a lower level NCO.
Yep.
It was like, oh well, shit, and so that was just it was weird being in that scenario where like people kind of looked at you differently. But getting there, and at this point, like 3.5 was the guinea pig for a bunch of new post-deployment mental health and health things that they were setting up, programs they were setting up. I didn't do any of that. I was TDY. Like I didn't talk to anybody, and mine was pretty bad, if I'm being totally honest. I wasn't all there. I wasn't able to like check in and as good as I should have been able to.
Yeah.
And so when I finally get into the coaching side and get out on the range, like it got to just a point where like, being around gunfire all day, at the time, it was just really kind of tough on me. Like, and I was having like flashbacks and I was just kind of like zoning out on things, and it wasn't the fun experience that I thought it was going to be, And so they ended up, I picked up sergeant. So then they were like, hey, we're going to move you to the logistics side of the house and like the range safety side of the house. So you're going to be, the police sergeant at Delta Range, and help on that side of the house. And so I started doing that. And then because of my experience on everything else, they were like, hey, like they need someone to take over the sergeant of the guard for the base or for Weapons Field Training Battalion, like the area. And so they moved me over there, and then they wanted me to kind of like train and go through like a combat lifesaver course.
Okay.
And I was like, I've been through live tissue. It saved my life and other people's lives, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that guy's missing his legs. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Like I'm already having a tough time, like having flashbacks and other things. Like, please don't make me do that.
Yeah.
And so it was at that time the Marine Corps was like, okay, well, like, thank you for your service. We're just going to medically retire you. Yeah. Man. And so, and I'd also, been into, while I was there, I had a pretty gnarly accident where um, I ended up breaking both my wrists in multiple places, and I ended up um, tearing a bunch of muscles in the right side of my body, and
Was that
I had to go through
motorcycle
physical
or what?
therapy. Hmm?
Motorcycle or?
Yeah, I had a big
Uh,
motorcycle accident,
uh,
and so between being in therapy twice a week and being in physical therapy and occupational therapy each twice a week, basically I was basically just at the hospital.
yeah,
So I was basically like main side hospital like area for the entire week almost,
yeah.
or sometime during the day. So um, yeah, I was at that point. They're like, hey, we're just gonna medically retire you. So
Good.
and then from the day they said that to the time I got out was 3 months.
Oh wow, that's
I
fast.
went from like thinking like I had a career that I was working on, in the Marine
Yeah,
Corps to out.
90 days.
Yeah.
So
So
okay, that makes for a rough transition, I'm sure, or at least a different, speedy transition. Um, let's talk about transition a little bit, and then let's talk about your 300 blackout a little bit. Just talk about starting that company and how you guys grew, and then we'll kind of get into your new, the stuff that you have going on now that we spoke about in the beginning.
yeah, of course. So getting out, went through TAPS, did the whole kind of like basic getting out thing, and was trying to really like negotiate like what do I want to do next? What am I gonna do next? I have no clue. Like being a grunt is really cool while you're in,
Hmm.
but as soon as you get out, you realize, okay, I'm fit for like security guard, police officer. There's not a ton.
Outlaw.
Trainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Train the trainer kind of deal. And so like I really didn't know what I was gonna do, and at the time, um, I was going through a divorce, and my whole life was just kind of like falling apart all at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually ended up basically having to like sell my house because I couldn't afford to keep it. I didn't want to get foreclosed on or anything.
Yeah.
I moved in with a buddy of mine up in Vegas, and after that I ended up homeless actually for a little bit. I was living out of my truck with my dog until I was able to get a hand up really, um,
Okay.
and got a job coaching baseball
Okay.
of all things. Got kind of back into the baseball circle
Circling
for
back.
a
Yeah.
little bit. Yep, and then a couple of my buddies were getting out of the Navy, and between all of our different like travels and just different people we had met, we'd made some like network connections that allowed us to start an ammo company.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that all came to fruition. And then technically, right before that, I had this incident where, um, just after I kind of came out of living out of my truck, I had a incident with the VA where basically like I went in for a surgery to deal with to deal with that bigger injury that I had had. Um, 'Cause that bigger injury, like when you mess up your ankles, like you can be more susceptible to like rolling your ankle and more susceptible to other things because you have these pockets that build.
Okay.
And so I basically had this other major like accident basically, and had to go get a surgery. And like long story short, basically like I died, like I had no
Oh.
heartbeat. And so um yeah, so
For
like
ankle
went from
surgery?
all that, huh?
For ankle surgery?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's a longer story for another time, and
We'll talk about
we can
later.
get more in depth with something. But yeah,
Okay.
so yeah,
Okay.
so I go through all that, and then that leads me into my other buddies getting out, and we start this ammo company.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you scale that, and you become what? Like you said, the number one. Um,
Yeah, so at the time, so 300 Blackout as a caliber became popular around like between 20, I think 11, 12 to 2013 was when it really started to like hit a stride, and people were doing like 30 to 40,000 rounds to market here and there. And we had some friends at one of the larger manufacturing plants. We basically, were able to convince them to contract load 3 million rounds for us. So we were one of the first ones to do 300 Blackout at a larger scale. So we did 2 million rounds of standard and a million rounds of subsonic. And
okay.
and through that obviously made a big splash, and it put our names kind of on people's radar, and we started getting hit up by Blackwater and a bunch of other different companies to help procure stuff. Like, oh well, if you can do that, can you help us find Humvees, or can you help us do procurement for other stuff and do the whole like war dog thing basically,
Yeah.
and so we kind of start going down that path, and into the broker sector, and we end up basically trying to import a bunch of 5.56 at one point, and some ITAR's laws had changed where basically the rounds we were trying to import had to go back across the pond to get repapered before they could be landed in the U.S. And when that happened, the whole market swung and shifted the other direction. And so we ended up, by the time the rounds actually got landed, we were like 15 cents above retail on over 4 million rounds. And so like we had to basically pay people to take to buy the ammo at that point at a wholesale lot. So we basically just ate the cost, put up the money so that we could get it done.
That's tough.
And we refunded a buttload of money. And as a young company, we just couldn't survive it. And so I did one more deal for a bunch of powder, like 9 tons of powder or something like that. And then I used that money basically to close everything down. So I ended up kind of having to restart again. I moved back up to Washington State, where a lot of my family was. And I just had to kind of restart and rethink about what I was going to go do. And so I had actually, at the same rough amount of time, it's really kind of like a happenstance story, but I'd started playing just local baseball again. And so there was a former major league player that was coaching a AAA team, and he had saw me working out at this one field, and basically through us obviously talking, he found out who I was, and he was like, "Oh, you're that guy that missed all the tryouts back,"
You do it.
And so he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "you can still move, and like you got a really cool story, and like the fact that you served our country is huge. I really appreciate that you did that and you made that choice for us." And so he's like, "I'll give you a shot if you can go walk on like a local team back from where you're from, and play some wood bat baseball." He's like, "If you play a year of baseball," he's like, "I'll give you a shot." And so like I went back home. I walked on a team, made it, told the guy my story. I was just recovering from my surgery for my ankle. And so like I technically wasn't supposed to be playing baseball at the time because I just got off crutches that month. And so, but I ended up dealing with the pain of it. Walked on the team. We get through preseason. I told the coach, I'm like, "Hey man, if I can play one season, I'm like, this guy's gonna give me a shot. I'll be like one of the first guys out of your program to actually go to the AAA." And so we get into the season, basically like politics of it just ruined it. So the guy that was playing in the position that I would typically play was on a scholarship, and if that particular player didn't play, then the coach would have argued for the college to basically waste money, right? Because he was on his full ride scholarship to play baseball. It wasn't a starter, then what was the point? So it was either he lose his job, or play me.
You.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, that was just the universe kind of showing me like, hey, this isn't real. This isn't going to happen. So like, time to shift gears. Obviously I was salty about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was just kind of my sign to like, I think push on, move forward and kind of take a step back, again, recalibrate and see what I got to do next. So I ended up, honestly, after that, my PTSD kind of came back, and it kind of rears its ugly head every now and then for some guys anyways. Like, you go through, you think you're good for a while, and then all of a sudden, like, you're not taking care of yourself again. And so like, I was mad, I was pissed, I was all the things that kind of like aren't healthy mentally, for anybody. But so I kind of went into this dark spot for a while. And so I just kind of like, I just went into this dark phase for a bit. And luckily I was able to kind of pull myself out of it. And find something else that like I could start doing again. And so I ended up obviously after I left, got out of the defense space before did the college baseball thing, took a step back, and then ended up I was like, I just wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I ended up finding this role working with like the second largest one of the second largest gaming communities for Xbox and Halo in the country. And so I worked in the esports space for close to 5 years.
Okay.
But towards the end of the 5 years, I had actually got pulled away from it a bit to go CEO a pro race team. And so
what's that mean? A pro race team of what?
So I was working with a American Rally team and a Formula Drift Pro One team,
Okay.
and so I was working pretty heavily on that and like the merging of some of the stuff we were doing there as well into the esports space. So we were looking at working with like Team Subaru and some other larger names in the racing space and like getting them further involved into the eSIM racing thing because I think that's also taken off over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So so we that was kind of our focus, but then COVID hit, and so that shut down everything we were doing on the esports side, which is kind of a shock to most people. But the way that the esports side was working is we were actually like a physical location space, and so when you can't do the physical location thing anymore, you know, you
Kind of
can't do it
kills
anymore.
you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it shut down. It shut down the esports side, and obviously racing shut down for a while too. And so as a young team in those spaces, you just couldn't survive it. Like
Yeah.
like sponsors were like, well, where's our money? Like you're not racing, so
Yep.
it's like okay, well, yeah, but that was all spent because we're a young team. It's not like that was capital for us. That was investment for us for parts for the car and parts
Yeah.
for a new haul truck to make it across the country and stuff. So long story short, obviously that COVID shut everything down, so it was time to you know take another step back and like how do I regroup again and recalibrate again. And so I ended up deciding to use my GI Bill. So I went back to school. I got my Bachelor of Science in International Business because I figured I was like I already have a small background in this from the time we were doing ammo and stuff. I've kind of got a lot of international contacts. I've kind of dealt in the space a little bit, so maybe it'll help me in getting the degree and vice versa. So got my degree, and then towards the end of finishing my degree, I started the company that I have now. So
War Inc. And give me, I know we talked about the phone up front. I really want to cover the phone, but I want you to give us just, if you can give me a 2 minute or a 3 minute synopsis of what you have going on right now and then what you have to come after.
Yeah, so War Inc. Started really because of the past history that I just gave you. I thought like, oh, I liked training, like I mentioned before. So it started out as a training company. It started out as us doing, CQB, marksmanship instruction, um, you know, things of that nature, along with apparel. Well, shortly after I started it, I had some calls come in from some old mentors of mine, other guys I knew from the defense industry, and they were like, hey, we need you to come back in a different scale and pace. And so I ended up meeting with some of them, and that kind of after that meeting, it escalated everything that I was doing kind of right back to where I was, but really further than where I'd gone before. And so War Inc. now at this point has started an initiative called the Project ONI, which is the Ordnance Nexus Initiative. And inside of that initiative, our focus is the next generation of military assets, whether that's weapon systems, munitions, AI technologies, LLMs, to light laser programs, and training across a bunch of different verticals, whether it's counter UAS, UAS, or I should say UXS. And so that's kind of the larger focus is now is like how do we build next generation military assets on the physical side? How do we then secure that using AI, using cyber IT stuff, and how do we just better the warfighter at every level while also protecting that critical IP in the defense space? Because the last thing we need is for Russia and China and all of our enemies to continue to knock off our stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. Is that part of the drive for having the phone that can't be touched and the comms that can't be touched?
Yeah, so we have 8 plus different partners that we work with inside of Project ONI that all are capable of doing some really awesome things independently. But once we start merging all those different things together, it really gives us the ability to change the way that we look at building or manufacturing kind of the next generation of munitions and those products. And so when I'm traveling the world, or when these other defense manufacturers are traveling the world to all these different shows and all these different countries, we can't continue to have conversations that include our IP over comms that are not secured. And while apps like Signal and other apps are really good, some of their coding is actually not all that bad. The issue really comes down to the hardware side, where like your hardware, your phone is just not very secure as a physical piece,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you have so many different attack surfaces that the app is not capable of protecting. So that's what the phone has aimed to do, is just, reduce that attack surface to, one thing that we can very heavily secure. So,
And you did that just by closing off any access to it, essentially, right?
yeah, it's zero trust. There is no back door to it. There is no, we don't have Bluetooth. We don't have a wireless signal. There's no GPS. There's no NFC.
Right.
There's no way to get into the phone. We have a cellular service, and that's it.
Yeah. Check.
And so that's the main focus of it. And then through that, obviously, that technology we're starting to help expand that into other verticals. So, like, for the longest time, we've had, these Tempest laptops, these very secure laptops that, maybe the HET team would carry on that black laptop you would see, right? But it's this huge black, 10-pound brick that you've got to carry around.
Yep.
So our focus is also building that next generation of Tempest stuff, so that you can carry around like a 4-pound normal looking laptop that's still as secure, that isn't gonna like break your back as you're carrying it around.
Check.
And obviously our whole goal is also to make it more secure than they've ever been. So
check. Hell yeah. And one more thing that we talked about offline, if I can get you to touch on it, is your UXS or UAS, the buttstock, I guess, attachment, or is it?
Yeah. Well, sort of, yeah. So we've got a bunch of different programs that we work with on the UAS kind of UAS side. And I also wanted to touch really briefly before I go into this, because you mentioned at the very beginning that the cell phone was the commercial product. We also have a second commercial product, and that's the Cerberus Lite technology, right? So that was literally developed for, you as an end user to, go out there, and it's something you can carry with you that allows for that escalation of force to happen. Whether you're law enforcement or you're someone who's just, jogging on the street who doesn't want to be bothered, you can use that light to, I won't say blind people, it's not the legal terminology, but you can disorient their vision.
Sure.
So you remember the Dazzlers we had in Iraq?
Yep, used them.
It's basically just a commercial grade, civilian grade Dazzler.
Oh yeah, it's powerful laser.
Really quick if you want to see it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's it right there.
Okay.
So this is how law enforcement's looking at picking it up. It's basically just handheld like this, but obviously it can be mounted to the bottom of a fire or a handgun, or mounted to the side of a carbine.
Like it. Okay.
So, but that's the other commercial product that we one of the other commercial products that we sell.
Okay.
But the kind of US side, that's obviously a huge focus for us. It's a huge focus for the world. We've sat in with groups like the FAA, with like sit in these larger groups that are focused on kind of UAS. So most recent one was with the FAA. I think the FBI was there. We had some people from the head of security for FIFA for the local area, and a couple other like larger stakeholders. And the focus is how do we really beat Group 1 drones. And so we're showcasing some stuff to the Army, and I'm going to be hopefully talking to div schools down in Pendleton with the Marine Corps, and doing some demos for the Marine Corps as well. So the Army and Marine Corps will both be part of the demo in February, but we want to not only show them like, here's the physical item that you can use to take down drones, but let's also start to look at the curriculum for the Army and Marine Corps for their kind of UAS curriculums and their combat FPV pilot course. And like, how do we take zero line knowledge that we've gained over in like Ukraine, for example, and start integrating the parts that make sense for the US DOW.
Yes.
And so the kind of US systems, like the hardpoint stuff, we're building a system of systems. So we're building out like a C2 systems that allow us to, identify and track the area of the drone and the direction it's headed. And then once we have that C2 data can be integrated and used by the physical systems. So we have, the ATLATL is basically like our answer for like super long range intercept. I don't want to say super long range, but super long range in the perspective of the warfighter. So 3.5 to 5 kilometers, and then if we can probably scale up to 10 kilometers, a little bit later. But we have the ATLATL, which can do the 3.5 kilometer roughly intercept, and then from there in, we have systems for the AR-10 and AR-15 platforms that allow us to, and then a shotgun platform that we're going to be showcasing that allow us to attach a sensor system and this custom buttstock that we have that can kind of gyroscopically like oscillate in your shoulder that assists in aiming. And so as that drone is identified and then that C2 sensor data is sent to the systems on the rifle, basically the warfighter can like spin around in a 360, and then once you're aimed in the proper direction of the drone that's been identified, it will like haptically buzz in your shoulder, give you some haptic response, let you know, hey, I'm facing the right direction. This is the direction I need to be looking at for the drone. And then once you pull the system up into your shoulder, it will buzz again when you're aimed at it. And so within 300 yards, basically, we're able to with just standard 5.56 on the third round, we're able to take down that drone 90% of the time. By fourth, fifth round, we're 100%. And so what we're showcasing now is not only can we shoot down with the standard stuff that we have out there, we can shoot down the Group 1 drone. If we move to our shotgun system that has specific kind of UAS rounds, we can do this by the first shot, hopefully, is what we're trying to like perfect. And so we're
With the
working
same
on a round
range
that
though.
is.
What's the range on the shotgun?
So we're actually like we're this close to perfecting it. We already have a round that can do 150 yards
Okay.
for the shotgun, and so the next round we're working on is 200 yards. So
Okay.
which is pretty rad for a shotgun. And so
What's special about the rounds? Can you say or no?
um just the design in the round specifically allows for it to travel further at a reduced spread that you would normally see from a 12 gauge round.
Okay.
Most 12 gauge rounds you're like 30 50 yards. It's kind of like
Yep.
really where you're at. And so this is a specific round targeted for UAS that allows us to punch out. So we have basically we're developing different kind of UAS rounds that have different fall off sectors. So we have one that goes out that will go out to 200 yards and fall off, one to 150 and fall off, one at 100, 75, and 30. And so for the closer in ones, we're working on having those basically be built for urban environments for law enforcement that would be completely non-lethal. So now those officers on the ground that are hold the security events will be able to shoot down drones without injuring the populace around them, outside of maybe the drone falling, but like they're not going to like kill people by shooting at it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the focus of that system. And then we're also working on building some other systems around that'll be more autonomous, that are large, slightly larger. That's basically the main gif of it. And then on the warfighter side, the actual the fully kinetic side, not only will this system be allowed because it's a trained model, we can shoot down drones in the sky, which is arguably going to be one of the hardest things to do for the warfighter. A human person moves a lot slower than a Group 1 drone, so we can switch the model from shooting the drones out of the sky to shooting at human targets. And on human targets, we're 100% on target.
Yeah. A lot easier than.
So now we're taking a lot of pressure out of the warfighter when it comes to that that first time engagement. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna miss.
Yeah.
Within a certain distance, at least. So.
Check. Love it. What we're coming up here. Where we at? We're at 2 hours and some change. 2:22. I want to close it out here. You and I are still gonna talk afterwards and set that next meeting up, but if you could reach out, if you could talk to the war fighters right now, the war fighters that are watching this, guys that are going down range hitting, guys that can end up in Venezuela or Afghan, Syria, wherever we're going to end up next, what would you tell them? You've been there, you've done that, you still are creating weapons and systems for them. What would you say?
For all the guys and girls that are getting ready to go out and take on that next fight for our nation, I think that some of those pivotal things that you guys need to understand is I spent a little bit of time in Ukraine and like talking to a lot of guys out there, and there's a lot of knowledge transfer that even they're missing out on because guys are just like, oh man, well I did my time, okay, I'm done, I'm out. You know what I mean? And it's if you get into that situation where your country's asking you to go out there and perform the function that you're trained to do, especially that kinetic fight, like it's going to be crucial for you to come back, and even if it's your time to get out, do everything you can to share what you've learned. You know what I mean? Whether you like your time in or not, you know what I mean? Like it's your job to do the job to your best of your capability, and once it's time for you to leave, like it's pivotal that you help that next warfighter do their job. You know, we have to. It's really something we need to work on preserving, and we also have to you know, the whole train how you fight thing is absolute. You know what I mean? And be that annoying lance corporal, be that annoying corporal, be that annoying sergeant. Like, hey, we want more time on the range. We want more. We want to go to live tissue. We want to do this, and just keep pushing. You know, a lot of younger service members don't take that initiative, right? Because they don't think that they have the power to. They don't think that, you know, that there's that them saying anything is going to do anything for them. And so, like, you know, be that squeaky wheel. Because I know that when I was in, like, you know, we didn't always get it, but you know, my squad just kind of showed me the right path, in my opinion, at least. Is that they would constantly be bugging, like, hey, we want to go to the army, we want to pull weapons, we want to go out, we want to do this, you know. And there was times when we would like set up range time, and the Marine Corps would fall short on ammo, and we would just, like, you know, we'd have to dry fire the range basically. But at least it was set up. At least there was someone pushing something forward where, like, you know, if the rounds did show up, then we got to shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that's not on you. It's the Marine Corps, but you're never going to even have the opportunity if you don't push for it. And so, you know, be the squeaky wheel, be pushing, you know, because this next fight, you know, we're watching what's happening around the world. You're going to get called up, and it's going to be peer to peer. And so if you're not taking every chance you get to train, and every chance you get to also pick the brains, like I was just mentioning, like, some of us, you know, it's pretty usual for the Marine Corps to send, like, oh, this group of guys is going to go to this particular course to be a combat FPV, you know, a combat FPV pilot, or these guys are going to go to this course for this course for that. Like, share the knowledge when you come back from that course. Like, and as a leader, get those guys to sit down and do those hip pocket classes to try to, like, spread as much of that knowledge to around, because, you know, like what we saw in Sangin, you know, the only time I've done, I like to joke about this, but the only time I've done algebra in my adult life was learning the equations that the mortarman taught me to drop mortars that saved lives. You know what I mean? But it was, you know, when we get out to that next fight, you're going to be operating in a highly contested, you know, environment where you're not going to, like, we already had a problem getting resupplied against the fucking Taliban. Imagine trying to get resupplied against in a peer-to-peer fight. Like, you're going to get dropped off in the middle of nowhere and expected to handle shit as long as you can until that resupply can maybe get there. So everyone needs to know how to pick up the next thing to do it.
Yep. Fact. Well said. Well said. But that's going to do it, guys, for us here on Choices Not Chances tonight. That is Jon Williams, retired USMC, CEO of War Inc. A lot of good things coming. Look them up. Look their websites up. They're going to be at SHOT Show coming up. So if you're going to be out at SHOT Show, check out that booth. Check out the things that they're offering up there, and more to come from this side of the house as well. So tonight, hey, if you're not following or subscribing to the channel, help us do that. Follow, subscribe, like, throw a comment in there. All of that bumps to a bigger algorithm, and we can change the world together. Be a part of that with us. So, John, thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks for having, you know, this second sit down with me. I appreciate that, and I want to stay in touch. I want to keep working together, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure. Happy to come on as things continue to progress. Right, there's always something new to share. That's what this is all about. It's just sharing the information to keep people aware. So.
That's right, man. All right, guys, that's Choices Not Chances. We'll catch you next time.